In a galaxy far, far away, there exists a group of fierce and fabulous women who are on a mission to explore the depths of pop culture. They are the Galactic Gals, and they are here to take you on a journey through the cosmos of entertainment. From the latest TV shows and movies to a trip down the Milky Way of nostalgia, they will delve into the worlds of fantasy and imagination, bringing you insights and analysis that are out of this world. So buckle up, cosmonauts, and get ready to blast off with the Galactic Gals Pop Culture Podcast.
Hello,
hey, everybody.
welcome to Galactic Gals and Gary.
Hello. You know what? I think that should be the new name of the show.
It kind of rings to it, doesn't it? Galactic
Actually,
Gals
it's
and
very
Gary.
alliterative.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
it works.
We need to hurry up with this because I have tickets for The Little Mermaid in 2 hours.
Oh,
So let's
I was
get
going to ask
going.
you about that, if you're planning on seeing that.
Oh,
got
Only
seven
things I
stars.
like it.
I don't know
oh
how.
boy. Oh, I love Archer's comment. Gary's Galactic Angels. That's classic.
Aw.
You know, hey, well,
And then
there,
Miranda says Gary and the
there you
Galactic
go.
Gals sounds
You
like a
know,
band.
listen to the audience.
Sounds like a new band.
Oh, Lord.
Oh man.
Lord. We're a bunch of nuts here. And we're all in good company. So
They
today
will.
we're talking about retro 60s television shows. And it's should be a fun
Yay.
one.
It should
Yeah,
be. Yeah.
first in a series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing
Right. First in a
we're
series.
taking it all the way. We're taking it all the way. Don't know if we're gonna do the 2000s, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's going to get narrower and narrower.
Right. It's gonna
Yeah,
be
we'll-
like
we'll stop at the-
one show.
We'll stop at the point where culture died. We just have to figure out where exactly that was.
Probably 2014 or
Yeah.
15.
Oh,
Yeah,
Could be.
that's probably what it.
Very good.
Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters remake,
Is that when it came out?
oh, that was 16. That was
2016.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It started in 2014, in my opinion, and it just kind of like took a nosedive. That was the catalyst, apparently. All right, so I'm going to share the screen. We're going to just get started because.
So how's this going to work today?
Oh, I thought I didn't tell you. I told Michelle. Okay,
Yeah.
so basically, all the ones that we shared, you're gonna see your icon like on the first one is just Michelle's, and then the second one I believe is me and Michelle because we shared some. So instead of just doing it like each one, and we're gonna like I had to put the same information. I just basically put us together. So
Okay, well, what I mean is we should tell people. So basically, we were tasked with picking our 5 favorite genre shows from the 60s,
Yes.
whether it's science
Yes.
fiction, fantasy, horror, and that's basically it. Other than that, there were no restrictions, right? I don't think.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah. I didn't remember. I didn't even remember like what the stipulations were now. It was so long ago.
No, I think it was just genre.
I think so. I think it
Yeah, I
was.
think it was. Yeah.
And that was
So nobody hopefully will pick like Gilligan's Island or something like that.
You know what, Gary? Why did you have to like spoil the
Well, they had some.
surprise?
You know what? They had some mad scientists visit that island. So I don't know if that qualifies as science fiction.
I'm kidding. That's not one of mine. I never even really liked that show, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No,
It's a terrible show, but it's still on syndication 50-something years later.
I mean, I watched it as a kid. I enjoyed it, I guess, a little bit, but it's not a good
I
show.
think they milked it to death.
Oh Lord, yeah. I think guys liked it because of Marianne and gender.
Of course.
That was the only reason why it stayed on the air.
Well, don't forget, Bob Denver was in Dobie Gillis. See, he was a known quantity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He was
Right,
basically
so-
just playing that same character on.
Yeah, pretty
How
much.
are we talking about Gilligan's Island? I apologize for that.
Yeah,
Let's do genre stuff.
But it got canceled because of Gunsmoke because the I guess the producer's wife or of CBS wife wanted Gunsmoke to go on. So
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. But
Okay.
then they had all those TV movies in the 70s.
yeah. Oh yeah, and they were equally bad.
Yeah, they were.
All right.
Yeah, my
So-
family wasn't into Gunsmoke, so
I wasn't either. My parents loved it, but I mean, it wasn't my thing. Okay, so let's start with the first one. The first one is Night Owls. So I'm sure we all remember this show.
oh yeah,
You Lost in
Lost in
Space.
Space.
great show.
Yeah, I remember that opening intro. Da 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 da. Yeah, the
John Williams
robot.
wrote that music, I believe. If I remember correctly, John Williams wrote the music.
Yeah.
He did. And then
He
the
did.
third season had a kind of a jazzier revamp of the theme.
So, yeah, I mean, I just remember the show and what the Jupiter 5 and when they did remake that, it took me a while to like the movie.
Oh,
But I
the
remember the
one
series.
with the series or the movie?
The movie, oh gosh, what is his name? The guy from France.
Oh,
Matt
look,
LeBlanc.
Yeah,
Oh, it's William Hurt.
Um,
William Hurt was in it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Matt LeBlanc.
But I remember watching that show as a kid, and I guess in syndication in the 70s, and have a lot of fun with it.
Well, I know the
Yeah,
girl
it
who
was
played-
a good show. It really
the girl who
was.
played Penny was in the Danny
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yes, she was.
And she was in Sound of Music. Angela Cartwright.
Yes, Angela Cartwright was in Sound of Music. She was.
And didn't the mom, wasn't she the same woman that played Edith Keeler in The City on the Edge of Forever?
No,
She
that
was
was
in
Joan
that.
Collins.
Jill Lockhart, wasn't she?
Okay,
in
I
last-
have my actresses
That was
mixed up.
Joan
Oh
Collins.
yeah.
Okay.
Her daughter looks exactly like her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why did you pick this one?
Just because of the kookiness of it, and the fact that I think part of us all want to leave and go out there and explore. Maybe not necessarily the way they did, where they crash landed on that planet and everything, but for the adventure of it. And who doesn't love a good evil scientist? Like Dr. Smith there. I mean, his character's so kooky and everything. It just makes you like him. For the time frame that it was in, I thought it was a pretty good series.
It was
I
fun.
don't know what you guys think. Yeah, fun.
Oh, I loved it. We used to watch it. My brother and I, he's 4 years younger than I am, and we watched it all the time. It was one of our favorites. Definitely.
I remember this show as the one with the hot blonde and 6 other people.
Of course you do.
I don't know.
And
I kind
the
of
robot.
like the young guy. What's his name?
Oh, Billy
Billy
Mummy.
Mummy.
No. The older young guy, not the father.
Mark. Oh, you mean the guy who was the dad? That was Guy Williams. He was Zorro.
No, I'm talking about the cute one.
Oh, Mark Goddard, who was
Thank
the
you.
pilot.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
never seen since.
The first, you know what? The first season, I actually thought, which was black and white,
Right.
when it was like really serious, I think was my favorite because they played the premise straight and it was serialized. And then when they realized that Dr. Smith was getting, I don't know if it was all the fan mail or whatever, and they made his character, the show became kind of like a double act with him, the robot, and Billy Mummy. And a lot of the adults then kind of became the supporting characters.
Mhm.
So I kind of like, that's why I like the earlier black and white ones, because they were more serious. But I can see the fact that since most of the show was the kookier thing you mentioned, that's kind of what sticks more in people's minds.
I never saw it in color, so this picture is a first for me because we didn't.
Yeah,
we had a
picked
black and
it
white
'cause it was
television
interesting.
until 1981. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the colors. It's kind of
those are very 60s.
yes, very.
And
60s.
this was the reason why Star Trek was on NBC and not CBS, because this started a year before Star Trek, and CBS, when they were pitched Star Trek, said, "Oh, we already have a science fiction show.
Huh.
It's Lost in Space," and so that's why then Star Trek ended up on another channel.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea. That that makes no sense to me, but okay. I don't understand. Like, we
Just
already have
weird.
one, so we don't need another one. I mean,
I liked the robot.
Yeah.
Danger.
I think
World.
Warning.
Yeah.
I mean, all the kids. I mean, I know British kids used to run around saying "exterminate, exterminate." American kids used to
That's
say
right.
"warning, danger, Will Robinson."
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what we used to say.
Yep.
Oh, mercy. That and play
And the
Cowboys.
less
and
said about
Indians
the
and
less
whatever.
said about the movie, the better.
Never saw the movie.
I did not like the series, the new series at all. I couldn't. I watched
Oh.
maybe 3 episodes, and I just couldn't get into it at all. The
Okay.
movie's better than that series to me.
Michelle, did you try the new one? I never did. since you
No,
loved
I
the
never did
original.
either. Not the new series. No.
It was. I mean, I will say that Parker Posey did a great Dr. Smith. She did.
Wait a minute.
Um,
Wait. Parker Posey was Dr. Smith?
yeah, they gender swapped, and a lot of people.
Wait, Julie, you're shocked that there's gender swapping going
No,
on?
no,
Welcome to 2023.
Wait a minute. I'm shocked that they turned an unsympathetic character into a woman. Because normally the woman's got to always be the hero.
Oh,
Well,
and she's.
but that's probably the most interesting character to play, though.
It is.
True. Very true.
And she and I will say, of all the characters in the show, she was the most interesting, and she did a really good job. So it was one of the few times I'm like, okay, I'm okay with it, only because she's doing an excellent job at this. She's really nailing it. But again, it wasn't enough for me to keep watching it. But
Who else was
again,
in it besides
that's
Parker Posey?
oh, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was actually was rumored to be the doctor, and when they were like, he was actually rumored to be the doctor right before, or he was the one that they said that they hired, RTD hired, but then he didn't hire. I can't remember his guy's name. Somebody had to look it up, but
Let me look this up.
yeah, he was very boring in it.
I know that it ran for like 3 short seasons, and they actually
Yeah, it was canceled.
advance notice where they like finished it. It didn't like end
Toby
on
Stevens.
cliffhanger.
Yes, Toby Stevens.
He
Yeah.
was in
Why did they name Parker Posey Zachary?
Die Another Day. He was in that Bond movie.
Oh, Toby Stevens is brilliant. Well, you know, think about his lineage. He's Maggie Smith's son.
No, he's a great. He's
a brilliant.
he's a great actor in other shows.
Brilliant,
It's just in this show, the way that they played him, it was like he was kind of like, I don't know. He was like just the mom was much more like in control, and he was just like over there.
Played the mom.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody. Oh, they race swapped the daughter.
Yeah, she's adopted.
Oh,
And
okay,
that's-
that
yeah.
makes sense then. And
You know, the picture that you have up there, Andy, it looks like they landed on Gilligan's Island. Speaking of Gilligan's Island,
It does. Where's Ginger and Marianne?
that's
Well,
right.
the guy
That's
who
what
plays
that's what the little
Tom
kids thinking.
You know what?
Where's
That
Ginger?
maybe
Oh,
that
Thomas, Ginger, and Marianne.
that would have been a good way. You know, if they wanted to cancel Gilligan's Island, just they should combine the shows for the last season,
Right.
and just have everybody there. That would have been great.
But
All
this,
right.
the series, the second series had a really good cast. I like pretty much everybody I know in this
Mhm.
cast. Oh, what a shame it was terrible.
It was, well, I mean, don't take my, I mean, hey, just watch it for yourself. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Jason
and
liked
I
it.
never
You know,
watched it.
it's
I
like,
don't have Netflix, so I won't be.
yeah, but I just, it didn't hold my attention. I'll put it that Parker Posey was good. I mean, they all did an okay job. I didn't like the way that they portrayed the dad.
Okay.
You know, the whole, you know, the woman is stronger and she's, you know, and he's just in her way, that kind of thing. And it kind of annoyed me. So nothing against them.
I gotta say, I mean, I'm looking at the costumes in this picture. I really like the costumes in this. I mean, I like the purple. I like Penny. I like Angela Cartwright's
Yeah.
green go-go boots and the green and pink that
Love
she has.
those
I think that's a cool color
It is.
palette for the series.
It is. Like I
Except
said, I
that's
saw
in
these
my
pictures. I'm like,
brain.
I'd never seen this. I've never seen the actual colors of the.
Yeah,
you know,
me
'cause
neither.
it
It's
was-
the first time I've ever seen the colors.
Right. So I thought that was neat.
And the dad
All right,
is
so-
in baby puke brown.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ew. And yellow.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
not
let's
a
go to
good
our next one. We'll just
Is that
do that.
what's that?
Okay, so this is mine and Night Owl's pick, and Gary can probably guess which one this one is.
Never heard of it.
Dark
Good
Shadows.
Yes,
Dark
yes, and
Shadows.
I admit I'm a virgin watching the show, but yeah, I
Are
mean,
you
what I
enjoying
like
it?
so far, yes, Jonathan
It's-
Frid. Oh my, I just adore him.
Don't we
See,
all?
my favorite is David Selby.
Oh, yes.
And when you get to him, I'm telling you right now, he's gonna be your favorite. I'm telling you now.
David Selby's still doing Big Finish.
Yes, and he's excellent in it.
Well, so why was this? I mean, I know, but I mean, just for everybody else listening, why are you both like in love with this series?
I love gothic soap operas type shows.
Well, you know, for me, I've never been one to be into this. My brother watched it and, you know, loved the story when he was a kid. And as a matter of fact, he tried to portray Barnabas Collins. He got locked in a footlocker when he was little. So, I mean, because he would pretend to come out of the crypt, you know, and I think
who
his
was playing
big
Willie
brother-
Loomis?
I don't know. I think he was just playing by himself. So,
Oh,
but I mean, I like the storyline, and I like how, you know, Barnabas is such a classic guy, you know, very Victorian as you would expect. I'm just drawn to it. I can't stop watching it.
yeah, it's
I gotta-
atmospheric. And even though it's a soap opera, it's like it has very paranormal and supernatural themes, which I absolutely love. I love a good supernatural show.
Mhm.
Can't help myself. And it blends, you know, drama, and it's just, I don't know. There's something about the '60s that they've incorporated, and it's such a timeless, you know, it's timeless. It's
Mhm.
you know, it's an elegant time, and it's like, I don't know. I just love the way that they act in it, and the costumes are good, and it's like, no, the special effects aren't great. We got a rubber bat, but you know, it's
I was
like,
just going to say that because I remember a couple years ago, you sent me like a couple of clips, and it was the lady in this picture, and
right.
she was being menaced by what was obviously a rubber bat. And I just kind of sat there going, 1,200 episodes of this, I don't think I could do.
It's a product of its time.
Right. And the well, and she always overacted, but she was
Yeah. That's
always
what soap operas are for.
right. Right. Then
It's
So
funny
from
because-
what I understand, it's like the first year of this was more kind of like a Jane Eyre type of thing, and then they brought Barnabas in, and then it became
Barnabas was not in
supernatural.
it in the
Right?
yes and no, because there was a supernatural element with David's mother at the end of kind of the whole Dark Shadows, the beginning section that, you know, the first couple of seasons, and that was really good. She played like a Phoenix character, and it was really, 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 really good. So they kind of started it then, but I think when they brought in Jonathan Frid, it just blew up.
It took off. Pardon
Yeah.
the expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Well, then it became. I read that's the point when
Who's got music? on?
that's
the
my
kid
husband
on-
with his TV.
Oh,
It's really loud.
That's the point when the kid audience started to grow, when they brought in the vampire.
well,
Yeah.
it was on late in the afternoon,
Mhm.
and my brother and I got out of school at 3:15, I think it was. And my parents weren't home. We were latchkey children before anybody ever heard the term. And we would rush home to watch this thing. And, you know, given it is a product of the 60s, and we didn't look, it's just like watching Doctor Who in the 60s. You didn't really care about the dodgy special effects. It was the story that mattered.
Mhm.
And we would sit there and see Barnabas coming out of the coffin, or somebody being bitten, or a bat flying, or the whale wolves. And it scared the living daylights out of us to the point where my mother and father said, "You can't watch this anymore." But they weren't home until 6, so of course we did.
Of course.
They still run a couple. I see on this TV when I flip around, they still run. I think it's like Me TV or one of the retro stations runs like 2 episodes of these like in the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like every day, so it's still on.
That's sad. It should be during the day or the afternoon. I mean, so people can experience it. And, you know, I don't know if younger kids are flipping through, but and I don't know, they might make fun of this, but it's actually well made and well done, you know.
Well,
It's
so
like,
let me ask you, because this was a soap opera. What were for both of you? What were some of your like the arcs that you remember the most?
Oh, God, I haven't seen it in forever. These 2 ladies have.
Oh, that's
since
that's
recently
what
than
I
I did.
Yeah.
I would say I liked, believe it or not, it wasn't the most popular, but I did like the Leviathan one that they did. I thought that was really cool and very H.P. Lovecraft, which I love. And I do.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as Colin points out, Maine is Lovecraft country.
Yes, exactly. And so there was a lot of that, and obviously that wasn't from what I was reading, that wasn't a very popular story arc, which I think was sad, because it was like, well, that was way ahead of its time, because people in the 60s just weren't into anything different. But the other one, of course, I liked, the Barnabas Collins story arc. That was obviously, exciting and new, and him trying to he kidnapped Maggie Collins, and it's like, and she's supposed to be Josette, his long lost love, which is very Dracula themed. But I also love the David Selby storyline, because it really showed like redemption, because you hate him at first, like he's evil, he's horrible, but then you realize, he's a cursed individual. And I don't know, it was just, as it went on, it just got really, it's one of those ones I didn't think I'd be into, but the more I watched it, I was like, wow, I'm really into this.
And didn't they do like, I read somewhere they did like time travel in this
yes
show too?
they did
They did.
And Kate Jackson was in it
Really?
as well.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she was part of the time travel as well as I do remember that one specifically. Yeah. But
Cool.
it's definitely worth watching, even though there's a lot of episodes. It's like, what else are you going to be doing? You're going to be watching the crap that's on TV now?
It was on every day, 30 minutes
Yeah.
for 5 years.
Yeah.
Every day.
You
So
could
I know this is
binge it.
maybe like a sore point. What did you think about the 90s? Was it the 90s or the aughts? The new update that they did.
It was probably the aughts.
I know Johnny
you
Depp
know
was
how
in
I
the
feel.
movie.
No, I'm not talking about the Johnny Depp movie. I'm talking. It came back like on TV for like half a season or whatever.
Oh, you're talking about the Ben Cross one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not watch that,
Me neither.
but I heard it sucked.
Ah!
Right. Right. I didn't drum.
She'll be here all week, folks.
Right. No, but I actually did. I heard it was terrible, but there is fans of it, so I don't know. One day I might when I'm bored.
Yeah, I'm still early in the series, and I started watching it on Prime.
Sorry,
So
don't
that's
need to
where
give any spoilers.
Oh no, it's all right.
Are you watching it on? Where are you watching it, Michelle?
I'm watching it on Prime, Amazon Prime, and
really?
it picks up, and then it's like after 3 episodes, I think that's when Barnabas shows up. That's why I questioned you guys, I think, a couple shows ago about, well, wait a minute, there's In the Beginning too, or the beginning series.
The beginning.
I'm like,
Well, Amazon Prime must not have Amazon Prime must not have like the first year of the show then. They probably started like a year in with Barnabas.
Yeah, they have like if you have to look up Dark Shadows the beginning because they list it that way, and that's pre Jonathan Frid, and it's worth watching, but you don't have to watch it. But in fact, a lot of these have a long story arc. I mean, it's nice to understand who the characters are, but they each have but they have one long story arc, and then it goes into something else, and just like a soap opera would. So you don't have to start like at the beginning. You can choose a story arc that sounds interesting to you, and you could watch it.
So since it's a daily soap, and since or was a daily soap, I mean, and since he didn't come in a year into it, I would assume that there's like a couple of 100 episodes.
Oh, there are.
Before he shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot.
Because according to Just Watch, Prime only has 1 season available without you having to buy it.
Yeah.
And then Tubi and Pluto and Freevee have everything.
Yes, they do. I mean, everything. There's lost episodes.
Right, but everything that's extant.
Right.
We're probably going to get them on DVD anyway. So, yeah.
Boy,
are the lost episodes the ones where they used real bats instead of rubber ones?
I don't know. But
I'm kidding. I'm not trying to make fun of it because
I do know what the neat thing is about some of the show is some of the bloopers, the unintentional bloopers, because they did this live, so they filmed it like live, and so toward the credits, I remember seeing Jonathan Frid like walking towards the door to leave, I guess, for the day, and they caught him on camera holding his shoes, and I laugh every time I see it. So I mean, there's some of that, but mostly it's a really well acted show, and the actors, they look like they're having so much fun, and good. I would have loved to have been on that show. If any show I could have ever acted in, I would have loved to have been on Dark Shadows. It seems like so much fun.
So. You and Wendology told me about the Jonathan Frid documentary, and it's fantastic.
It is
really
wonderful. He was a wonderful, wonderful person. Very kind man. I've watched several interviews with him. In fact, I think he had a channel or somebody doing it on his behalf, and him just riding around, just looking at where he grew up and talking, and it's very interesting. It was right before he died, but he is he was such a genuinely just sweet man. And
I don't remember what it was called.
And if you see pictures of, I did in some magazines, pictures of like the fan events back then, This guy was huge. I'm not talking
He
like
was.
Beatles. I'm not talking
he
like
was
Beatles
enormous.
huge, but I mean, this was a pop culture phenomenon. I mean,
Screaming young girls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And speaking from experience, I know that's a real pain.
Also available on Tubi, Pluto, Plex, Freevee, Redbox, all the free sites.
Yeah. And you get some ads, but it's okay.
Yeah,
I would
you
prefer
can
it
do
would
it.
be cool if they did the ads from the time period. That would be kind of neat, but
If you ever go to Internet Archive and watch some TV shows, you can get the original ads.
Yes. In fact,
And that's awesome.
there
I
was a
love that.
woman, this is kind of not off the subject, but kind of is. There was a woman that I watched a doc. I can't remember her name right offhand, so don't ask, but she basically just recorded from the 70s
Mhm.
onwards up until her death. She recorded every minute of television that she could record.
Wow.
Yeah, and I can't remember her name, but when we stop the stream, I'll look it up and I'll give you her name. There's a documentary on her, and you definitely should watch it. So interesting, and we've actually watched some of her videos on Internet Archive, and she actually would record like Star Trek, and then she would record just hours of the news and just different things. And so I'm sure there's some
I
gems in
never
there.
saw it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny when Gary was talking before about Jane Eyre. Reminds me, Internet Archive has a 1949 version of Jane Eyre with Charlton Heston as Rochester.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's terrible. And and Bertha, the one in the attic, actually reminds me of Elsa Lanchester's Bride of Frankenstein. But the point is that during the show, you get Betty Friedan doing commercials.
Right.
For Westinghouse washing machines and Westinghouse electric blankets. Oh, it's wonderful.
Right.
That version of Jane Eyre ends with Charlton Heston riding up to the Statue of Liberty, right?
I mean, it's an unintentionally hilarious version of Jane Eyre. I mean,
oh man,
it's
so
bad.
You enjoy it just for all the wrong reasons.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was great. I during my Jane Eyre-thon, I watched it and just howled with laughter.
Well, that's the most important thing.
It was great. It was fantastic considering all the crap that I'd
move on from Dark Shadows. Although I could be here all day.
Dark Shadows was wonderful.
Oh, you mean we're not going to talk about the Johnny Depp movie?
No, we're moving on now.
No, Johnny Depp.
We don't speak of that.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so this one's just yours, Michelle.
Okay.
The
Jetsons.
Oh.
Ruh-roh.
I always wanted a flying car, and I wanted to live in a time period like that. Have Rosie the robot, do everything for me. Then I grew up and realized it's not real. Yeah.
You think by now we'd be there, but we're not.
Oh, I know, right? That's another topic for another day. But yeah, I mean, Elroy, the boy genius, it's like, I want to be that genius. Yeah. I don't care about his sister though. I mean, I just, no. But, and the dad with what, space rockets. Well, you can have her, Gary.
Well, this is sort of like a futuristic Flintstones. I mean, basically, it just piggybacked off the Flintstones.
It did. It came out like only like 2 years after the Flintstones debuted.
And it only lasted 1 year.
Yeah, it was. It was the second primetime cartoon from Warner Brothers. The first being, Hanna-Barbera. The first being the Flintstones.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Flintstones stole a lot from the Honeymooners.
If we can have a machine like that, yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, because I'm tired of slaving over a stove. It's like push a button and be done. Yes, that was always lovely.
And when in the chat is right. I mean, a great theme song. Even at the end with the "Stop This Crazy Thing" credits at the end, both the opening and the closing credits were great.
Oh yeah, I agree. Another aspect like was what his little space buggy car thing would fold up into a suitcase, and he carried it with him. You know,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I thought that was intriguing. So.
And it's amazing to think. You'd think that when you think of like the Jetsons, that it's kind of like the Flintstone, that it has hundreds and hundreds of episodes around, because it's been on literally forever. And any show that's been around forever has to have hundreds of episodes. It was only on for that single season. And it's only those like 25, 26 episodes.
And
That's all there was on the
and
Jetsons for decades
thousand
until they
times.
started making a few like in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, it was they made an additional 51 episodes from 1985 to 1987.
Okay, did not know that. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
And actually
That's on MTV.
Apparently,
Wait, what was the MTV one?
It says the Jetsons played on MTV on the shows, and the show's composer Hoyt Curtin was amazed by its success. Who knew?
Oh.
Wow.
and Judy Jetson in the 1990 animated movie was pop star Tiffany. So
Well, the show, I don't know what they mean when they say the show aired for 3 seasons. That's got to be including the new 80s
It is.
stuff.
It is. It is. That's what it says here. It was
Yeah.
revived for an additional 51 episodes from 85 to 87.
And so here's a trivia question for anybody, and if you or anybody in the chat can get it. So if you watch the Jetsons, you saw this every single episode in the opening credits. What was the name of Elroy's school that they sent him off to? And you see the sign there that the name of his school there. It
God.
was in every opening credits.
No idea.
I remember
No idea.
Spacely Sprockets, but that's where
Spacely
George,
Sprockets, yeah.
where he worked.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you the school.
I can see it, but I can't see the name.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, we can keep going. I want to see if somebody in the chat comes up with it. But,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, that's like a little Jetsons trivia.
JFK Elementary.
It was not JFK Elementary. It was. I'll go ahead and tell you. It was Little Dipper.
Oh,
No, that's right. I remember that now.
That sounds like a daycare center name, Little Dipper.
It does. It really does.
Oh my God. I
Wow.
have no idea. I'm gonna have to look for that. Find it when it's on and look for it.
I did add this little fact at the end. The Jetsons had some weird moments that reflected 1960s values, such as George spanking his son and Jane being a housewife.
Let's get back to that, everybody.
A lot of kids out there really deserve to be spanked, and they really need it.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I think that is a good
A lot of
value.
adults
I
really
don't have
need
any
it.
problem with it. I was spanked. I'm sure everybody here
Yep.
on this
Oh, yeah.
panel has been spanked by their parents. We turned
yeah.
out just fine for the most part. But yeah, I thought that was really strange that that's one of the facts. Like that's
right.
what people are concerned about. Kind of sad.
Yeah, I remember when I took my 17-year-old now to the movies, like when he was, I don't know, 6 or 7, and somebody was acting up, and he goes, "Boy, somebody needs a spanking." So, you know,
Yeah, you
yes,
did. Yes,
Out of
good
the mouths of
parenting.
babes.
Yes.
yes.
All right. So let's see what the next one is. And the next one you share with Retro Doc. I already know what this one is.
I have no
I remember
idea
now.
what.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
remember.
We
You have
don't
no
know what's
idea?
next, so.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Arguably
Yeah.
the best animated series ever created.
Yes.
64, 65. Again, the third of Hanna-Barbera's primetime, cartoons, and it was created by very famous comic strip artist Doug Wildey, who fashioned it more along the lines of like Tom Swift, Terry and the Pirates. And yeah, so you have the Adventure of the Quest family. Johnny is Father Benton Quest, Race Bannon, and Johnny's adopted brother Haji Singh, and of course Little Bandit. And they would go all around the world, and the animation was absolutely trend-setting. It was not just for kids. I mean, adults for decades have loved it too. And just a real solid action adventure. I mean, some of the, one of your facts, Andy, on the last one, that Hoyt Curtin was the composer of the Jetsons theme. He also composed the Johnny Quest theme, which is absolutely iconic. That whole da-na, na-na-na-na-na-na-na. I mean, it immediately gets you into the show. And so, yeah, he's an 11-year-old boy. He could do everything. Judo's good. And if you're a young boy watching this, anybody who says they did not want to be Johnny Quest was a liar. And it really, where it says the opening credits for the show feature a lot of shots fired, like Race, firing the rifle and everything. And so much so that when decades later they started releasing these on VHS or DVD, a lot of those were chopped out. They chopped out a lot of what they thought were the questionable, maybe some of the dialogue, or some of the more violent things, to where when they released a couple of years ago, when they released on Blu-ray the complete original series, there's a disclaimer at the back which says it's presented as originally aired, is intended for the adult collector, and may not be suitable for children.
Really?
So
why was that?
Well, because there were some, there was a couple of questionable racial comments that Race made a couple of times, and just like and it's because it's a show where the villains died, the henchmen got killed, sometimes the villains died and everything. And I just wanted to mention a couple of my favorite episodes. One is called The Robot Spy, which is the one in the opening credits where that little spider is walking along and it's an eyeball on the spider legs in the opening credits.
Oh, I remember that.
That's kind of iconic. And then there was another episode called The Invisible Monster, which is totally terrifying. It's just this electric monster with this big eye in the center of it. And there's a lot of really good, intense, scary episodes to this. So Johnny Quest is brilliant.
So Michelle, what are some of your favorite moments?
Well, I just remember Saturday mornings getting up and, of course, watching Looney Tunes, and then this show would be on, or Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. But I remember, like Gary said, the theme music. And I always wanted to beat Johnny Quest, because here he got to go on all these adventures and go all over the world. And I envied him that, and I want to see the violence. That's what cartoons are for. It's just make believe, I mean,
Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, exactly. And I know they've taken out, even in the Looney Tunes, when he goes off the cliff, and falls down and goes splat, and you'd see the puff of smoke. I know they've removed that now from the cartoons, and I'm like, really? So.
But even like in the opening credits, they use a lot of footage from the first episode, which is called Mystery of the Lizard Man, and it's the one where those guys are in those kind of suits that look green, kind of like lizard outfits. And one of the things is like the boat, they're on the speedboat, and the speedboat launches and lands on them. And it's like, you're not going to tell me that any of those guys survive when a high-speed speedboat lands on them.
Yeah.
So.
No.
Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah. I haven't watched it in a long time.
I haven't watched it since I was a kid. I did watch it here and there. It wasn't I wasn't hugely into it like you were, but I did think the animation was phenomenal. I love the animation in that show. That's what gets kids' attention. When you have cool animation like that, you're going to stop as a kid. I mean, even as an adult, it kind of stands up, and I like the aesthetic of it.
They were animating reality. It wasn't like a science.
Right.
They used science fiction elements, but not like things that couldn't really happen. It was mostly, it was almost kind of like a jazzed up, kind of like James Bond movie. And there weren't aliens or anything like that. And so I think they kept it fantastic, but realistic at the same time.
And they have remade it, Gary. They have remade it, and it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, they did that really crap 90s version, which was like a Matrix-y type show.
Well, I think they did one since then too. And I think it's just the new 90s animation with
everything past the original 26 is crap. And then, a lot of really progressive things like I mean, progressive in the good sense, I mean, forward thinking or decades early. Like one of the recurring characters was Jade, who clearly, and there was no bones about it, clearly she and Race were, when the cartoon finished, she and Race kind of went off and did things. And that was clear in some of the dialogue and stuff. So
I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure kids have never been exposed to any of that before. Yeah. So I think people just get way too picky about stuff like that. Look, I saw it. It went over my head. I didn't even remember. I wouldn't even be able to point that out to you at the time because I was young. And but kids now would know, I'm sure.
One last thing about the great theme music is that they use footage from that episode Turu the Terrible, which is the pterodon, that comes like screaming out of the sky and goes like, and then during the opening credits, the timing of that pterodon screaming mixes into the music so perfectly. It's almost as if it was like composed that way. So there's a lot of just really memorable images from this show.
I'll have to check.
So here's I think this is your last one. I don't know, maybe this might be, but we all know what this one is. And this was right on the cusp, so I allowed it. Because I think a lot of us probably watched this I didn't watch it in the 60s, but I'm sure a lot of people watched it in the 60s. I wasn't alive.
I was a little young in 64, but I watched it later.
Right.
I watched it in syndication in the 70s and 80s.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Right.
I love Rod Serling.
One of the local channels in New York for years would have a Twilight Zone marathon every New Year's.
And Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know about Thanksgiving, but New York definitely had it New Year's.
We've I've seen them on Halloween, which are really a lot of fun. Me and my son used to watch it on Halloween, like it to be an all-day marathon. So.
Yeah, I love the individual stories, how, this normal, ordinary, everyday person just going about their business, and then they step into the Twilight Zone somehow. Some weird paranormal thing happens to them. I love that. And I love the mystery and the intrigue. And I have a few favorite episodes. One is called Time Enough at Last, and it's Burgess Meredith.
Yes.
And he's always wanting to read, and he's a banker.
Oh, yeah.
And, he's sitting there reading while he's working and always gets in trouble. And his wife can't stand it that he reads. And
what's wrong with reading?
Because I don't know, she was such a bitch.
She was horrible.
Really
You're right. She was a complete bitch.
I mean, she took one of his books, and he'd had it in his coat pocket, and she knew he would take it and with them to go play bridge or something. And she's like, "Why don't you read me some?" And he's like, "Oh, really? Awesome." And he pulls out the book, and she's got it all blacked out and everything. I'm like, "Oh, that's awful."
Yeah. That was
that am I wrong in saying that episode is probably one of the most famous for the twist ending?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Songs for divorced people.
Oh,
yes.
I mean,
that ending is I don't know. Should we spoil it or should we not? Because it's not one. If you haven't seen that episode, it's not worth spoiling that, because the ending is just, yeah.
I mean, Twilight Zone was all about the twist endings.
It was.
Yeah.
And I think another one of the most famous ones is the one where William Shatner on the plane.
Oh, yes.
Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Yes.
Yes.
That
There's something out on the wing, that whole aspect. It makes you wonder, was he crazy? Did he really see it? It gets in your head.
He wasn't crazy.
But there really was that thing out there on the wing.
Well, don't they? Am I wrong, or am I confusing it with the last shot of the segment in the movie? But don't they do like a pan back and something, and you can see that the wing is torn up, that there is damage?
Yeah. Yes.
So implying that yes, there was something.
So now when I get on a plane, I'm actually looking out at the wing. I can't help it.
Oh, it was a great show. Really,
Oh
really
man,
great show.
and my absolute favorite episode, it's called The Bewitching Pool. You have two kids and they're with their parents in the real world, and they're swimming in a swimming pool, and mom and dad of course are fighting because they're fixing to get divorced and everything. And this strange kid pops up in the center of the pool and says, come on, come on. And so the kids dive into the pool and they end up in a lake in another world. And it's like, damn, I really want that to happen. Where's my swimming
that
pool?
sounds like a vacation. That's cool.
Well, and where they went, there was an old lady and she loved all the kids. She would raise them and treat them right and let them play, and they'd still have to do chores and things. But it was like paradise for those kids. And I always loved that episode. And that right there, the picture of that one, that's the eye of the beholder.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
very famous episode.
Yes.
Yes, I love that one too.
And then there's the one with, Billy Mummy again, who later did Lost in Space, where he has the mental powers.
Oh yes, that's a creepy one. Really creepy with the phone.
And that was one of them that they redid for the Twilight Zone the movie.
Yeah.
As well as the William Shatner one.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But,
what did you think
I
of
love it.
Twilight Zone the movie, Michelle? Did you think it did it justice, or?
I prefer the original black and white. I remember when they did try to remake the series. I don't know if it was 80s, 90s. I couldn't get into
80s.
it.
Well, they've done like 3 or 4 different revivals.
Yeah, they have one now.
I'm
They
just-
canceled it, but they had one.
canceled it.
Yeah, I'm just partial to the black and white, I guess, because it's more classy, I guess, for
Black
the
and
time
white
period.
is also more scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Color would not work. Color would not.
And they're not
work
worried
in
about
the show.
offending anyone. They're
No.
just trying to write a good story.
Honestly.
And
Right.
yeah.
Another
you can't,
one.
you can't redo these.
Darren in the chat mentioned one of my most remembered ones, which is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which is the one about the paranoia kind of driving everybody in this neighborhood crazy because they think it's an alien attack.
Mhm.
That's a really good commentary on, paranoia and suspicion and,
It's
what
like
that does to you and everything.
It's like that War of the Worlds broadcast
Mhm.
in a way.
Yeah. There's another one. Oh gosh. There's one where this lady, she's like living in a farmhouse and she hears all these like walking or twittering or like scratches and everything. And at the end, it's like you see these spacemen, or which I guess are us, but he actually went to a land of giants, That's a good one.
Agnes Moorehead. She was the one who was in that.
There's so many good ones. So many good ones in there. So many good stories.
It was a really great series.
What's
I remember watching them on
what's the one where they're all in a diner and they're suspecting like an alien attack, and it turns out that at the end it's the guy who's the worker in the diner who removes his hat and there's like a third eye in his forehead.
I don't know the title of it, but I know the one you're talking about. I want to say
Yeah, I
William
remember that
Shatner's in that
too.
one too. Because there's
Seems
one
like
where
a
William
lot of
Shatner's in a
people.
diner.
Oh, that's the one with the little music, with the little fortune thing, the little music, little jukebox that's in the booth. That's
Okay,
the
then
one
I'm
with
confusing that one
Shatner.
with the other one.
Yeah.
There's just so many good ones. Another favorite of mine is Kick the Can, where they were living in an old folks home. And one of them go live with his son, but his son's like, no, I can't bring you home. And next to that old folks home was a bunch of kids playing Kick the Can. And so the older adults like, come on, let's just go play Kick the Can. We've got nothing to lose. I'm not going to, just die in here. I'm going to go have fun. And so he goes out and plays Kick the Can, and he gets younger. He turns back into a kid again. I mean, that's
Oh,
just an
wow.
ultimate adult fantasy.
You know, they literally didn't write anything new for that movie at all. They just
I was
took
going to
old
say, Andy,
stories.
didn't they redo that one too?
Yes, it was in Twilight Zone, the movie. They did.
Okay.
And thinking about it, they really didn't write anything new. Not one story for
Yeah.
that movie, which they should have done. They should have done that because you can't. Why are you redoing stuff from the past?
Yeah.
They were doing it then. They were doing it badly then too, apparently.
They can't have any original thought. So,
Well, I mean, this was in the 80s, but still, I would think better of them if I guess they figured that they were trying to create a whole new fan base for Twilight Zone. But
I mean,
I don't
and so
know.
it's no wonder that, you know, in the late 60s that Rod Serling was the one they tapped to do the screenplay for the first Planet of the Apes
The
movie.
what?
Rod Serling did the
Broke up.
screenplay for the first Planet of the Apes movie. So he was the one who came up with that twist ending.
Oh, dear.
well,
We're on to you, Julie.
Oh, dear.
We all know
Bewitched.
this.
oh yeah.
Bewitched. My brother and I, when we were kids, we always had debates over which was better, Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie, whose powers were better.
Mm.
You know,
We
whether
have-
you
we've
go
had that
with
debate
this or
too.
with the
Right,
Leonardo.
Gary?
Stay tuned, everybody. That debate will be happening shortly on this show.
But that was the big thing when I was a kid. Because and the Bewitched, its first series or season or two was also in black and white,
Uh-huh.
and she was wearing a lot more makeup than she did towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was it
And,
was starting
I
in
mean,
the 70s.
I just love the show because I remember when it first came on, my mother pointed out that she had seen a movie called I Married a Witch with Veronica Lake.
Uh-huh.
So when that was on TV, because obviously we didn't have DVRs or DVD players back then, but I remember seeing I Married a Witch. So Bewitched became even bigger to me. I mean, we loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And I like the second Darren better.
Do you
Oh,
really?
Yes, I do.
I'm a first Darren kind of person.
I think it's because, all right, this is totally shallow of me. I thought the second Darren was better looking, and I could see why she fought her family over him.
And yeah,
Over the first Darren, who just seemed sort of like
dorky.
troll-ish.
Yeah, I can see that. I liked his the way he reacted to things a little bit better.
Exactly. It was difficult, but I did cotton to the second Darren.
But I can understand the look department. I agree with you.
So
I
Julie,
think for the expression-wise-
which of her family members did you like the best?
Well, and Dora was fantastic
Mhm.
because she just was determined to have her way, and she pretty much always did. And I liked her father wasn't on very often, so you really didn't see much of him. But Aunt Clara and of course Serena was brilliant. And I just loved the whole show. I mean, there were two Mrs. Kravitzes too. It wasn't just two Darrens. There were also two Mrs. Kravitzes.
Right.
The first one, she actually got cancer.
Yeah, she had ovarian cancer and
Yes.
died in between like seasons 2 and 3 or something like that.
Yeah, and she was
liked
good. I
her.
liked her too.
I liked her better than the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And and Larry Tate always made me laugh. I just love this show. I really do. I absolutely love it. I will still to this day watch episodes of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
It really is just
a couple of years ago, I watched a few seasons of it. Haven't gone back to it, but I did enjoy. I forgot some things. You know, when you're a kid and you're watching it, you know, you're not paying attention to certain things, and it was just, you know, it's actually a really funny show. It really is. I found myself laughing at some scenes. Specifically, there's a scene, and I don't remember the episode, so you have to forgive me. But it's when Darren was going to work, and you know, Endora was always messing with him, as you know.
Yep.
And he's walking out, and he's got a suit on. It's the first Darren, and Endora decides to basically change him into a hillbilly. And I just, and so he's sitting there with a piece of, hay sticking out, like, why he's dressed this way. And it just really struck me funny. So if a show can do that, make you laugh out loud.
I also liked, I'm not, as you all know, I'm not into the preachy kind of, you will learn this kind of thing. But they actually did have lessons in Bewitched.
Mhm.
They did an episode where the two little girls, a black girl and Tabitha, were told they couldn't be friends because they weren't the same color. So Tabitha gave them each polka dots. She gave the black white polka dots, and she had black polka dots, so they would be sisters.
Well, that's
And
yeah.
it was the kind of thing where you didn't get beaten over the head with it, but it was still an important life lesson.
Yeah, they did that more back then, and they're real moral lessons.
Yeah,
they really were, and
yeah,
and
I
watched
Uncle
it.
Arthur. Colin reminded me of Uncle Arthur.
I was going to say, he was
Oh
one of
my
my
God! How could we not mention
Everybody
Uncle Arthur?
He was one of my favorites, and also Dr. Bombay. I liked because Dr. Bombay rhymed. He goes, he always had the rhymes. When he would be making these prescriptions.
Oh yeah, when you were doing the incantation to get him.
Yes.
Come right with Dr. Bombay.
And then they'd always be calling him out. He'd always be like on vacation in Tibet or whatever. So he would beam in with all the snow on him and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I love that show so much. And of course, Paul Lynde was just brilliant. And all right, Larry Tate's wife I thought was kind of a simp, but
She's
Larry
snooty.
I wanted to smack.
Well, yeah, the characters like that weren't really characters. They were more like roles.
Yeah,
right.
They had no character really. They were just there.
But I just, and as Colin says, the ones where you travel back in time, I like those too. Like the time Aunt Clara, well, also the modern ones where Aunt Clara brings back George Washington.
Or Ben Franklin. I remember Ben Franklin.
Or Ben Franklin. And so you can learn a little bit of history there too. I mean, it was not quite Doctor Who, but you were able to learn things. I just love pretty much.
I always like the ones where they went back in time to Salem and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that where it says Elizabeth Montgomery was not. Who was the first choice?
That I didn't know either.
I don't know.
It's like about halfway down.
Yeah, right above actual alcoholic drinks were used on the show.
Yeah, that's what I'm focused on. I kept thinking, wow, actual alcoholic drinks are used.
Because am I wrong in saying she was not really widely known before this show?
No, she wasn't.
No, she wasn't.
I think
Her father was famous.
But...
Well, Maurice
Her father
Evans,
was Robert Montgomery, the actor.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yes.
I know him.
Yes. And they had a whole bunch of different guest stars, and they got. She and William Asher, I think they got divorced during the show, but they started it together and they ended it together, even though they were no longer married. But yeah, no, I absolutely love this show.
And then, does anybody remember the short-lived spinoff? They did like a Tabitha spinoff.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that. Oh God, who was in it? Was it
Lisa Hartman?
No, I know it was Lisa Hartman. I can't remember who played Adam. Something Urich? Was it
Robert Urich?
Was it?
No, he was doing Vegas by that time.
Oh, that's right. But anyway, yeah, no, I of course I had to watch the show, and it was not nearly as good, and it lasted like a month.
Yeah.
But
okay,
this show is an all-time favorite.
I have a question. It said multiple networks have tried to remake and reboot Bewitched. I remember the series. Now, this was like 90s, maybe 80s, 90s, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Did they get that idea for that show?
No, that's totally
from
that's from Archie Comics.
The Archie Comics.
Okay.
But they did make the movie with Nicole Kidman
and Will Ferrell.
And Will Ferrell.
I watched it. It's just not as good.
It's not as much fun, but it made me go back and actually watch some of the series.
I mean, it had an interesting premise because it wasn't exactly the same. They were trying to do something different with it. It was like basically she was a witch and she was going to play on a show called Bewitched.
Right.
And she's an actual witch. So they kind of tried to do something different with it. It was entertaining for what it was.
I mean, I haven't seen the movie. I've seen only bits of the movie, but I thought Nicole Kidman was a good choice for that part.
Oh, she was. She was fantastic choice for it.
And Michael Caine played her father in it.
Oh, good choice.
So that was
that's a good choice.
I did not like Will Ferrell in the movie, but I
No.
thought Nicole Kidman was an excellent choice.
You know who
Absolutely.
I think they should have got if he would have just settled down? Jim Carrey. That would have been better choice as like a
Actually,
Darren.
physically reminds me of the first Darren.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim Carrey would be a good first Darren.
Yeah, if he wasn't acting overly over the top, if he could just settle down a little bit and be fine, it'd be good. But
Oh, I thought
really
he
don't
did a
need to remake
serious
these.
movie. I thought Jim Carrey.
Oh, he's
did
done
a serious
several
movie.
series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so,
he can. But what
Jim
I fear
Carrey?
is, yeah, he's done several serious movies.
Oh yeah, he
Number
did that
23.
Truman Show.
Yep, Truman Show.
Yeah, even more serious one is called the Number 23 or something.
Didn't see that.
That's
one.
it's a very good movie. It's very dark though. But he can play serious. But what I fear is if you're in a comedy, he's gonna like, oh, it's a comedy, so I can,
Yeah,
be annoying.
Colin in the chat says Bewitched is another one of those shows which span the change from black and white to color. Yeah, most of the networks, I think it was the 1966 season, where most of them, although there are large swaths of the country that still did not have color TVs up until the very late 60s or into like 1970. But 66 was the year when color TVs kind of like were available for those who could have them, which is why a lot of shows which started before 66 but then continued on, like the first season or two would be in black and white, and then I think at least two of the shows that we're going to be talking about coming up were that way, where like the first
Dark
season
Shadows was too. Dark Shadows
was Dark Shadows ever in color?
Yes.
Did they ever
Yes.
really? Okay.
Yes. Oh,
I did not see it in color, but it was.
Yes.
I was Peter, I think I would absolutely. I mean, come on, you have Jimmy Stewart, who's the first Darren, and then you have Kim Novak, who absolutely is Samantha.
I'm waiting for you to say Kim Novak and make some sort of comment, Gary.
I have nothing negative.
No,
to say
I
about
know.
Kim
I mean,
Novak.
all good things, I'm sure, but like Kim Novak.
Homina.
The way you said, yeah, there you go.
That's a good movie, Bell Book and Candle. If you haven't seen
Yes, it is.
It is a good movie. As was I Married a Witch.
And Veronica Lake had awesome freaking
Veronica
hair.
Lake.
He had awesome freaking hair.
Yes.
She had it. What was it over the
gorgeous.
one eye? It's like, oh.
Yeah.
My mother used to tell me that when I was younger and had all the 60s long hair and it was in my face. You doing your Veronica Lake impersonation?
Yeah, my mom actually said that to me in the 90s when I decided to go blonde and wear my hair kind of like that.
I need to do this.
There's worse things to tell someone.
Oh gosh, yes.
Like
It's
Veronica
worse than to
Lake.
say the woman and they look like Veronica Lake.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you can do
No, this is
That's what I'm
it's
talking
kind of a corny pick, but I absolutely love this show.
Oh, we all do. Well, we have really great memories of it, and then the next one, I think I know which one this one is, and so here we can start our debate, I believe.
Okay. Oh,
Ding, ding, ding. All right. So this is Rocky. This is where we're going to be doing the Rocky, match. This was one of my picks. I think this is my number 5 pick. I loved I Dream of Jeannie, and not just because Barbara Eden was drop dead gorgeous,
who couldn't show her navel.
but I just thought, as a kid when I was watching this, I'll get into why I like it by itself and then why I preferred it to Bewitched. I just think that it was just a very fun. I loved the premise of him being the astronaut that finds the genie on the desert island, which causes chaos. And this was the ultimate wish fulfillment show, for kids. Because if you're anybody watching this, it's like, man, I want to grow up to not only fly into space, but then have a genie at my beck and call. I mean, boy, if that's not a life goal,
and
I
it's
don't
the
know what
opposite
is.
of Darren. It's that opposite of Darren. Darren, all he did was complain about having a witch as a
which
wife.
is one of the
And
reasons.
this one-
Which is one of the reasons I preferred this show. Now, two of the reasons structurally why I like this show. First of all, I think this had one of the best. I'm not talking the standard mundane early 60s theme music they used for the initial season, which was in black and white. But then when it came back into color in the second season, they totally revamped the theme tune into the iconic one that we all know today, which is the, da 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 da, because even the theme song like brings you up and everything. And it was very of its time, the late 60s. And structurally, I thought it was great because yes, sometimes Jeannie causes chaos in his life, but more often than not, he will then welcome her help later. It wasn't like never do magic, never do this, never do that.
Didn't she cause some of it?
Oh, a lot of the times, yeah. She would try to be helping him and getting in trouble with Dr. Bellows and
Dr. Bellows.
everything. But here's the other thing. One of the reasons I think what I love most about this show is one of my favorite comedy actors of all time, who's Bill Daly, who played his best buddy Roger.
Yes.
And the fact that it wasn't just him and Jeannie, it wasn't just Tony and Jeannie knowing that the fact that they brought in his best pal to kind of be the co-conspirator who can kind of know what's going on was genius, because Bewitched never had that. It was always Darren by himself and then Samantha's family, and nobody else could know. But bringing in the buddy to be his kind of partner in crime on this was genius. And I mean, a lot of great episodes, like there was one where, and the fact that she had the Jin, her invisible dog, who would always cause all kinds of chaos and stuff. And they did, unbelievably, for a 60s sitcom, they did like a 4-part story where she gets locked in a safe that's getting scheduled to go to the moon. And the 4 episodes are Tony and Roger trying to get the safe back and drill into it to get Jeannie out.
I remember
before it gets shot in the moon. And to have that kind of multi-serialized story in a sitcom was kind of rare. And of course, Barbara Eden was, absolutely gorgeous. And the one, we won't, dwell on it too much. The reason why I like this more than Bewitched, which I watch all of I Dream of Jeannie and not comparatively that many of Bewitched, was, like I said, Tony, she did cause chaos in his life, but, he loved her and appreciated her and would use her, knew that she could help him get him out of jams. And I just thought, watching this as a kid, being an astronaut, going to the moon every week, which is a weird thing. I mean, on this TV show, they went to the moon every week, or they were going into space or something. And versus as a kid watching Bewitched, the fact that, to me, Darren had what I thought was a boring job, which is an ad exec. It's like, oh, we got to get this campaign going on and stuff. And the fact that he was always to his wife, don't be who you are. Don't use your powers.
No,
I don't want you to ever do witchcraft. But that just turned me off, because, I mean, even watching that as a kid, I thought that was just wrong. And Bewitched to me feels, in many ways, I'm not running it down because I appreciate why people love it, but to me, Bewitched is almost like a 50s mentality kind of made in the 60s. It's like he has a very 50s buttoned down mentality about how his life should be, how his home should be, how his wife should be. It just happens to be playing out in a show that was made in the 60s. Whereas I Dream of Jeannie seemed really just kind of modern and updated. The colors were popping and everything, and you never knew what was. They did a show where, an episode where Jeannie blinks in the morning paper for her master, but she accidentally blinks in tomorrow's paper. And so Roger steals part of the paper to go to the track and win, which is what else you would do.
Right.
You would go, to the track and play all the winning horses that day. And so they chase after him to try to, get him to, get the wrong day's paper back. So you never knew what was going to go on that show. So that's why I just.
It's, but I mean, remember, there were still
Absolutely,
quite a
Maggie.
few of the traditional shows going on in the early 60s. So I get it. I understand what you're saying. And let's face it, Tony had an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
But then with Darren, they made a whole series about Mad Men. And that's where Darren went.
Yeah, and the ad agency. Yeah. That was a big thing in the 60s.
No, I'm not saying it was out of place. I'm just saying, I guess it depends like where you are, like when you like watch it, because now we go, oh, well, of course, 60s was all about button down suits, ad execs. But if you're a kid watching it, you see the genie and the astronaut versus this kind of button down guy who maybe to a kid kind of seems boring, who's trying to get his wife to not do witchcraft all the time.
Right.
Well,
No,
I also think there's the element then, and as a kid, you're not going to pay attention to this either. But she actually agreed not to do witchcraft. You know,
but she always ended up having to, and sometimes he was very grateful because it got him out of a scrape.
Right.
And
right.
I will say that another, I think, unsung element of this show. If you watch the show now and you think, oh, okay, this stars Jeannie and the guy who then went on to play J.R. Ewing.
Right.
If you watch Larry Hagman in this show, he is a brilliant physical comedian in this show.
Oh, absolutely.
He does all kinds of pratfalls, his timing, his reaction, especially when things are going wrong, like the and stuff. And I mean, he is a master physical comedian, which was never, of course, then he went on to do stuff that wasn't that. But I mean, it sounds like Julie agrees with me. It sounds like he was brilliant in this show with that.
He was the straight man. He had to be the straight man, but at the other hand, he was very funny. I mean, he really walked a fine line. It was an excellent show. I think that's why you and I both have it on our list.
I think my favorite episode of the entire series is the one where where they're in Hollywood and they're trying to get Jeannie to go and laugh in. And Roger is pretending to be her manager, and Tony is like trying to stop it because he knows that this could expose them all. And there's this sequence at the end, which is just a series of pratfalls and chases and everything, which is just like great. So that's probably my favorite episode of this one.
I mean, we all love it. It wasn't on my list, but
it's a good show.
I
A lot
definitely
of
grew
fun
up with it. Yeah,
I'm reading all these facts. Let me see. Oh yeah, the brass bottle. She did that with Tony Randall.
I was watching I Dream of Jeannie when we heard about the Challenger disaster. I'll never forget this. I was actually working at the time and also going to grad school, and my brother, who was in undergraduate at the same time, we were both sitting there at our parents' house. Our parents were at work. We were both homesick with strep throat. And we're watching I Dream of Jeannie, and they broke in to say that the Challenger had exploded.
Wow.
Yeah. So a show about an astronaut being airing at the exact moment that the Challenger was exploded was kind of creepy.
I like Archer's comment. He said, can you imagine the heads exploding if today's snowflakes saw a woman calling a man master?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And you know, the show was on for 5 years. It ended kind of at the right time because I think halfway through the final season they got married. And luckily they didn't drag that out for a full season and a half. I mean, I think it was just the very tail end of the show where maybe about 10 episodes, the last 10 episodes they were married in. But it's like at that point, something like that screws with the dynamic of the whole show.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you've just got, it's like, okay, it's a nice little kind of thing at the end of the show. That's fine, but it kind of undercuts too much of the premise.
It never works in any show that they've ever done that. It's just like it ruins the whole entire show once the characters get married.
Yeah, and they did
like
a couple of they did like 2 or 3 reunion movies in the late 80s, early 90s.
Talking about.
Yeah, Larry Hagman. I know that Barbara Eden and Bill Daly were there for all of them. Larry Hagman wasn't in either because obviously he was in Dallas at that point. I think they had Wayne Rogers.
Wayne Rogers,
Yeah,
and
not
then
the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Okay, so we're done with
What do
that
we got
one.
next? What's next? Okay, most of you will never have heard of this show. It's got an interesting premise. The man in the middle of the picture, he has a 33-year-old son, and he was raised just by his mother because his father, at the age of 33, disappeared in some kind of avalanche accident. And the whole premise of the show is that they find his father. He's been frozen for 66 years or 67 years, and they were able to revive him, and they bring him back to 1967 California, and he looks just like his grandson. And he's still 33 also. So in his head, he's 33, even though he's 100. So the premise of the show is the second 100 years, he's been dead for most of his first 100, and now he's getting to experience life as part of his second 100. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Wait, so the younger guy who
was
I
so adorable.
recognize as Monty Markham
Yeah, it
is
is Monty
actually the father of
Yes,
the
the
other.
father of the
Yeah.
other guy. He plays his own grandfather. And there's a scene in there that just makes me laugh every time. The two Monty Markhams are like on the floor, and
Yeah,
the
in the first picture
son
there.
says, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing with my grandson," and it just makes me laugh.
I gotta say that in the bottom picture, the black and white there, at
Mhm.
first when you put this up, I thought that on the far right, I thought that was like Luke Skywalker who drank the green milk. That's what that
him.
looks like.
Yeah.
It kind of does.
Yeah,
I
he does.
like the ad. It says new show 8:30 in color.
Yep, he looks good with the beard. I'll tell you that.
Has this been shown anywhere in the last
No.
forever?
No, but I just remember it because I
Okay.
loved it so much.
Wow.
It was maybe 1 or 2 seasons, but I just loved it.
Yeah, one
I don't
season.
remember enough about another show that was on a little earlier called It's About Time.
Oh, that was a sitcom with two
Yes,
astronauts
with-
crashing back in prehistoric
Yes,
times.
with Imogene Coca as a cave woman.
And
It's
the
about
guy that
time.
goes, ooh,
It's
ooh,
about
ooh.
space.
Yeah.
It's about time I slapped your
I
foot.
remember that. I
Yeah.
definitely remember that show.
Yeah,
This
but
seems
anyway, this is
vaguely
a really great
familiar. I probably
because-
have read about it, but I don't know if I've ever seen it.
This show I loved
Never heard
just
of this
because I
show.
thought Monty Markham was adorable. And it had an interesting premise. I loved it.
They just in the 60s they were kind of scared of this type of thing. I think it just seemed like it wouldn't last, but it seems like it should have. I don't know why the reasons it was canceled.
I'm curious. I don't know how long it's been since you've actually seen an episode like this. What was the tone of the show? Was it like a comedy? Was
was
it
a
more
comedy.
kind of like a feel-good drama?
Yeah, it was
or-
a comedy. It was definitely a comedy because of all of the mistaken identity and
Okay.
yeah, and the 60-something-year-old son dealing with this 33-year-old father.
Okay. All right.
But it was fun. I loved it.
Wow.
There are actually episodes on YouTube.
Okay.
Watch them.
Or Internet Archive.
I've
maybe.
seen
Or Internet
clips.
Archive, possibly.
I've seen some clips, and it looks interesting. It looks
It's
like a
fun.
show that would have been successful. I'm really not sure why it didn't last, but
I don't know either, but I don't know what it was up against. I don't remember. It was a very, very, very long time ago, and I was very young.
okay. So
Oh, well, come on. We all love the Addams Family.
right,
Everybody loves the Addams Family.
yeah,
The original.
yes,
Yes, I know the characters don't look the way Charles Addams drew them, but I don't care.
Mhm.
Yes, Peter Harrington, there was a My Mother the Car, which was a really awful show.
yes, it
Even
was.
back when I was a child and
That was Jerry Van Dyke.
was very Jerry Van Dyke and didn't have the refined tastes that I do now.
That's
Even
right.
then, we thought My Mother the Car was a terrible show. But yes, the Addams Family, what we always loved about the Addams Family versus the Munsters was that the Munsters were a normal family who looked weird.
hmm
I mean, we're a non-normal family who acted normal. And the Addams Family were a relatively normal looking, normal in terms of not being green.
Right.
who were not normal. But yes, and it was always kind of spooked me out that Wednesday would chop the heads off her dolls, and loved Thing and
I don't
Cousin.
know. I
love
had like she's my spirit animal. I don't know. I didn't do that, but I thought I don't know. Wednesday was
I
an
just
interesting
loved it.
character.
It's a fun show, and with Morticia and Gomez passionately in love with each other, and every time she spoke French, she said, "Tish, you spoke French."
Yeah, I mean,
Really
when I
It's really
saw
fun.
when I
And
first saw this as a
Yuan.
kid, that was the element of the show that I most loved. Is even as a kid, I thought I had never any other shows I was watching, I had never seen the kind of relationship that Morticia and Gomez had.
Yep.
Because it's like however long they've been married, they are still passionately in love with each other. And he says French, and he physically can't control himself.
Yep.
When she says French, he'll run in from another room and start grabbing her arm and kissing up the arm. And that to me was like, I was always like, man, that's the kind of marriage you want.
That's what you want.
And the things like
Exactly, Maggie.
Cousin It,
Definitely
and
relationship.
Thing and everything. It was all great.
And everybody, I mean, to this day, I'll say, I'll try to imitate Lurch and say, "You rang."
Yeah.
You rang.
I can't get quite as deep as you, Gary. But yeah, no, I absolutely love this show. Every one of the characters is just spot on. I mean,
and nothing against
you really
the
can't
newer
go on.
versions with Angelica Houston and Raul Julia, but it was incredibly hard to find just pictures of the original. When I looked up 1960s Addams Family, I still got the Addams Family that I use, and I'm sure that's everybody's, like, they love those, and I'm sure that was their childhood. But for me, this was my childhood, and it's kind of sad when all the remakes get more attention to a certain degree, even though I think this is the superior to all of it.
Yeah.
I think it had its charm, and it was innocent. It was an innocent show, and the whole family could sit down and watch it, which it's not these days. It's not like
I love
that.
the fact that he liked to go into his basement and blow up the trains. I always got a kick out of that.
I know. And then Pugsley was just such a lump. Wednesday, I think, got a lot more screen time than Pugsley.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But she's a beautiful little girl, and I think, frankly, is a better actress than the boy who played Pugsley.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I just love this show. I really do.
I don't think Pugsley did anything much after the Addams
I don't
Family.
think so either. But yeah, no, it's a great show. John Astin was fantastic.
Brilliant. John Astin was amazing in that.
Everybody in this show, I think everything about this show is just pure, unadulterated fun. I just love it. I like it better than the Munsters, to be honest, and I liked the Munsters.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
In the
facts, it deserves to be black and white.
In the Addams Family, in the black and white one, wasn't Thing confined to a box?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay,
it wasn't all this nonsense in the movie where it's roaming down the halls. No.
Right.
Yes.
Well, they had the special effects to do it, and that's why they did it.
I saw a documentary about, oh God, what was his name? Ted, the man who plays Lurch.
Ted Cassidy.
Thank you, Ted Cassidy. I saw a documentary about him on YouTube. Apparently, he played Thing because he was the tallest person, had the longest arms.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He was Thing.
Well, that makes sense. Well, in the series Wednesday, I mean, Thing does, run around, but Thing, I think, is a great character in Wednesday. I love that character.
Well, yeah, it is actually in Wednesday. It is really good. I just think that, back then they didn't have the special effects to make it happen.
Right.
So it all stayed in the box.
Yeah. It would have been harder to do a disembodied hand roaming around.
Right. It would have looked really bad with those special effects in the 60s.
I mean, I used to joke around back when I had this, my 60s long hair about dressing up as Cousin It for Thanksgiving, just putting my hair and putting my glasses
I think every girl has done that. I used to have really long hair, and I would do that and put, it's just.
I used to threaten.
And it was like so many the kind of off the cuff things that they would drop in, like, oh, Tish, remember when we, had our honeymoon like in whatever cavern or whatever? And it was like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. The reason that I like this show more than the Munsters, because Munsters, I think, had like beyond the visuals of the characters and the monsters, it was a standard 60s sitcom. I mean, if you have those characters, you could remove those characters and put any other characters from any other show into the situations in the Monsters. It would be the same. Herman takes a driving test. Eddie's having trouble at school. Grandpa feels like he's being neglected. It's like, oh boy,
just the green.
But you could not do the plots of Addams Family and bring in any other. I mean, it was unique to that show.
I thought the Addams Family was much more creative. The Munsters was just your generic sitcom only made with green people.
Absolutely, yes.
Agreed.
I do think it was interesting that even though there was some kind of innuendo, it never showed them kiss.
Nope, except her arm.
Except the arm.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, there were scenes where, I mean, obviously in the 60s, they didn't show them in bed together. But I mean, there were scenes like in the bedroom or whatever, not like, just in the room, in the actual room. And you can imagine. But, I mean, oh, come on. I mean, if anybody doesn't think that Morticia and Gomez were
of course
enjoying their marital privileges like every single time you weren't watching them, I mean, come on.
I'm surprised they even appeared downstairs.
They had double bed.
Oh yeah. Most definitely.
I mean, I love the fact that like when she was trimming her plants, she was actually cutting the heads off the flowers.
Yep.
And she would have her poison ivy vines and all the stuff. And I thought, well, that's cool.
Right. Now the Munsters. Yes, I know the Munsters are a sitcom with green people, but it was still fun.
It was.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, it was, but it was a more clever sitcom than you get today, which is not hard. And obviously Al Lewis and Fred Gwynn had been together in Car 54, Where Are You? Mm-hmm. So they already had a rapport together. And speaking of two Darrens, we had two Marilyns.
That's right.
And
I didn't notice actually. They look the same to me.
We did have two Marilyns. And even though I don't love it as much as the Addams Family, it still brings back good memories from my childhood. And that's why I wish they would have done.
I always wanted them to do more with the dragon that was under the stairs.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Thank you, Colin.
Wow, look at that. Eddie and that Butch Patrick has no makeup at all in that shot.
I know. He's got some Spock ears going on there.
See, that's a different Marilyn.
Yeah.
They looked very similar, though.
They did the 2 seasons, and then they did a movie, too.
But it was 2 different
Helmets. The movie was terrible.
Didn't see the movie.
I like the fact that Herman, the guy who plays Herman, he went on to play the judge in My Cousin Vinny.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And he was also in Pet Sematary.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yeah,
and then the kid who played Eddie was in Lidsville later.
Really? Well, Yvonne DiCarlo was actually like a bathing beauty pinup actress in the 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm.
She was in the gorgeous. 10 Commandments too. She was gorgeous.
Yes, she was 10 Commandments. She was gorgeous woman. Absolutely gorgeous woman.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it because it's just been on my mind. Does Grandpa just not look like Ted Cruz? Or Ted Cruz just not look like Grandpa? Come on. I'm just gonna say it.
Let me draw a beard on him and on my screen.
I think that's why he probably grew a beard. Like
better with the beard, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so that's probably why he grew it. It's like, I'm tired of these damn people making memes that I'm Grandpa.
Did they ever make it? Because I haven't seen all the episodes of the Munsters. Did they ever make it explicit in the show that Grandpa was Dracula?
I don't think so, but we knew he was a vampire.
Well, no, I know he's a vampire, but I know he's probably modeled after. But I mean, in terms of making it clear, because obviously then Lily would be like Dracula's daughter from the 40s movies
Right.
and stuff. But did they ever say, okay, back when I lived in Transylvania or something like that?
I
I
don't
don't remember
recall.
that. I know they were from Transylvania. That I remember.
Yeah. And you
whatever
got to,
you
you
do,
know what?
don't
The
waste
thing I
your
like
time
most
watching
about
the
the
Rob
Munsters,
Zombie one.
the thing I like most about the Munsters was the theme music.
Yes.
Yes, that's another good theme song. Yes, and I loved
Yes.
their car. And everybody knows their address, 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
Mockingbird Lane. That's right.
I remember one episode that I thought I think the episode they jumped the shark on was when he was playing with the Dodgers.
I don't remember.
See?
Again, would you have Gomez? Would you have Gomez out playing with the Dodgers? I don't think so.
Agreed. I agree with you. The Addams Family is objectively a better show.
I want Time
But this
Mechanic.
was-
I want visual proof of that before I'll believe it.
Oh yeah, no, he cut out for the Dodgers, and of course he was smashing the home runs. But as I said, the Addams Family may have been objectively a better show, but I thought the Munsters was a lot of fun.
And they were on the exact same time, both from 64 to 66.
Yes, they were. And I've seen
It
both.
just
in
seemed like it
syndication.
was on longer, but obviously,
Well,
when you
that's
start
because
looking
they've
at the
been
numbers,
rerunning every day for 50 years. or
yeah,
whatever.
it feels like that. And you're a kid, like, wow, this show has so many episodes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and usually in syndication, one followed the other. So
Yeah.
when they were airing, so I
And
remember
sometimes,
that.
yeah, they would air them like your Addams Family episode. Now we're gonna watch them. The Munsters is coming
Right.
on.
You
It's
come
just
back
how
from-
they did
you
it.
come back from school and you watch this.
It was
But
so
apparently,
good.
Fred Gwynn had a lot of problems with the costume because it was so heavy. And if you remember him from Car 54, he was a very tall man, but he was very slim, very slightly built.
That coat was probably really heavy.
Oh my God, and the padding and everything. Yeah, that costume weighed a ton.
That's interesting. The Munsters was created by Alan Burns and Chris Hayward, who went on to create the Mary Tyler Moore
I
show.
did not know that.
Totally like, wow. That's like totally
So it
different.
was, I guess Ted Baxter was supposed to be Herman Munster.
That would explain it.
Wow, it got an Emmy award for, Emmy nomination for Outstanding Comedy. Wow.
Well,
Okay.
I know we'll some of these are not as strong as others, but as we have been reminded, My Mother the Car was the bottom of the barrel. Anybody who ever saw that will know it was the bottom of the barrel.
If they remade it now, probably gender swap it or maybe.
I watched
My
very
Mother the
little
Car?
of it.
You
for a
what?
reason. I watched very little of My Mother the Car, and there's a
It was
reason for
terrible.
that. Like
They don't
to
even
me,
run
that
that
and
on
Mr.
retro
Ed has got to
channels.
be just the worst. to me.
Terrible. Yeah, I don't think it's ever. I don't remember ever seeing it in syndication. I remember seeing it
Yeah.
originally with my dad. My dad and I, not my brother so much because he was 4 years younger. And when you're a kid, 4 years is a big difference. But the shows my dad and I watched together would be like The Addams Family, but our favorites were McHale's Navy, Get Smart, and Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
And growing up and realizing that Get Smart was written by Mel Brooks and
Buck Henry.
what's his name? Oh God, what's his name? Oh, Buck Henry.
Yeah.
You just realize just how good it was. Oh, and Mr. Ed. Oh, we liked Mr. Ed. Okay, there.
Oh, this was one of your picks too? Okay.
Yeah. I'll let you have an extra one. I think this is the extra one.
You have to sing the
Yes.
song, Julie.
It's about time. It's about space. It's about time I slap your face. That's
I
the way
don't
we
think that
sang
last
it.
line was actually.
No, that's the way we
part of
sang it. That's the way we sang it when we were kids. And I was, let's see, 1966. In the fall of 66, I was 7 years old. So that was a big thing for us. This was only in black and white. This color is just for a publicity shot. But this was a show about two astronauts who somehow managed to go back to caveman times in their spacecraft.
Mhm.
And they come across cavemen, including Imogene Coca, who had been for years on my show of shows with Sid Caesar. So she was very, very well known back then. Yeah, no, I loved it. Absolutely loved
There
it.
are episodes available on YouTube. I
Yes,
remember
there
because
are.
a couple
There are.
years ago, like during the
And they're
pandemic,
very
I would
grainy.
watch. And then supposedly, like about halfway through the season, their only season, I don't know if they ran out of story ideas or whatever, but they basically flipped the premise and they go back to modern times, but they actually take a couple, three of the cave people with them. So the premise inverts.
Yep.
And it's more kind of like the fish out of water thing the other way around.
Maybe that's where where Geico got the idea of the caveman. I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, it was a totally stupid show, but everybody loved it.
If they
didn't love it, they wouldn't have made fun of the theme song.
I still can bet this is probably better than Cave of Skulls with Doctor Who.
I honestly don't remember Cave of Skulls with Doctor Who. I've obviously seen it.
And just looking at this shot that Andy happened to choose for this, looking at the background, I have no doubt that this was filmed on the same set as Gilligan's Island.
It was Sherwood Schwartz was also created Gilligan's Island.
Wouldn't surprise me. But only Gilligan lasted a little bit longer. This was, as I said, this was an absolutely terrible show. But everybody loved it because, again, they would not have made fun of the theme song if people weren't watching it.
That's the thing about 60s and a lot of 70s. Even if the shows were rotten, the theme songs were pretty catchy.
Yeah.
They had much better music back then than they do now for TV shows. Much more memorable. I mean, you had John Williams writing theme songs for what do you call it? For Lost in Space. Doesn't get much better than that. And Cam says he still watches Hogan's Heroes and METV, and he loved Get Smart. Get Smart was
Get Smart's a fun one.
Brilliance. Get Smart, absolutely brilliant.
Until it made the cardinal mistake that was Andy alluded to earlier. They got married and had kids in the last season.
Oh, that's even worse.
It's like, can we end this now, please?
Yeah, it was awful.
When you do that, it's like getting a tattoo of the person you love on. It's the same thing. It's gonna end.
Barbara Feldon was wonderful, and Don Adams was wonderful. It was a great show. But anyway, that's I part of the reason I suggested this one in the last 100 years is because I didn't know if anybody would ever have heard of them, and I wanted to make sure people knew that they existed because they were so much fun.
Right, and that's what we're about, finding something to watch.
I actually like that as a caveman name, Gronk.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
I'm actually really surprised I didn't mention My Favorite Martian. I loved that show.
No one mentioned that one. That one and Get Smart, which is weird.
Well, Get Smart wasn't fantasy.
Yeah, but I mean,
you're right. My Favorite Martian's really good. Two great actors.
Oh, yeah, they're fantastic. And Mr. Ed obviously is fantasy, but maybe it's because I was trying to be different that I didn't mention My Favorite Martian. I don't know, but My Favorite Martian was an absolute favorite. And that lasted longer than the second 100 years, or It's About Time.
Yeah, that was like in 3 seasons, I think.
Yes, it was a good show. But it's funny. I remember watching his antennae come up, and you could so tell that they were coming up from behind.
Bill Bixby was great in that as well.
I know, Bill Bixby, and then he went on to play Eddie's father.
And another character that will no doubt be coming up when we do our 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I'm sure.
yes,
I'm sure that will be brought up.
Father was a fun show.
All right. So we're down to me and Gary. And ironically, me and Gary agreed on just about all of them, I think, except one. So.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, this little show.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Have you? I don't know.
About people flying around.
Had some guy named Spock in it. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't remember offhand the episode that you're showing the picture of where the Enterprise is followed by a sippy cup. I don't remember that episode.
I don't know what that is. I have no idea. But
is that that's not the Botany Bay, is it?
No, the Botany. No. The Botany
What?
Bay didn't have that bowl shape
Okay, I don't know what.
underneath it.
I don't
Here's
know
a
what
better
that was.
picture for you.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, do we really need to explain what the show was?
I don't know. Some
It's
people
like
did
for
that.
those for the
Star
one
Trek.
person who might be listening today that's never heard of this show. No,
Well, they
but
may
I
have
mean,
never watched
clearly,
this show. They may have
yeah.
watched other shows.
I mean, I started watching this when it was in daily syndication. I watched it with my mom every night on Channel 5. You know, and it was just, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's for me, it wasn't about, I mean, you know, as a kid watching it, obviously for me, it was about the characters, you know, it was about the plot. It wasn't about, I mean, the occasional messages, which were not in every episode, but the occasional messages, you know, weren't sledgehammered. It was more subtle. The fact that they never really called explicit attention to this shot, the fact that you had a multinational crew, a multi-racial crew, a multi-gender crew was just a given on this show. It wasn't pointed out as, hey, everybody, look at us. Isn't this great? It was just there. And the fact that it was just there
Yeah, they act like it was
to
normal.
just kind of like soak into your head was far more effective than if they would have just constantly pointed it out and, you know, made it explicit. And, you know, perfect casting up and down. I mean,
I would take one person out of this picture, but you know, other than that,
Chapel?
no, Sulu.
Oh,
I would have got rid of him. But other than that, it's a guess. Yeah, you know, I mean, but
Sulu's turned
Bones
into
and
a
Spock are
loser.
two they're most interesting characters to me, other than Kirk. I mean, they're dynamic together, and their comical exchanges is like it's what kind of kept me watching, because I just love the way they, you know, Bones kind of, you know, he kind of gives it to Spock, you know, he kind of, you know.
And Spock became a cultural, I don't want to say like sex symbol, but he became kind of almost like, you know, Ilya Kuryakin in Man from U.N.C.L.E., where he was the one character that everybody grabbed and elevated to almost kind of like godlike status in the fan base. And I mean, the stories were great. I actually think of the 3 seasons, the second season by far is the strongest. It has the longest run of really excellent stories. A lot in the early, there's a lot of, the first season's pretty good, but they're still finding its way. There's still some good episodes in the 3rd season, but a lot of clunkers. But
and the 3rd season,
you know, what could you, Andy? What are some of your, or everybody, like, what are some of your favorite episodes?
Right offhand, I don't.
Just offhand.
I don't. Definitely not Tribbles.
Really?
That's definitely not one. No,
Really?
I don't
Okay.
like that episode.
Why not?
I think it's silly. I think it's very, very silly. Basically, I really do like the aesthetics of the show. I do. I like the way that the ship looks. I like, you know, the dynamic of the characters. You know, I like the Kirk and Spock friendship. I like the fact that Kirk is, you know, he's, you know, who we can all relate with, but you know, he's very emotional. And then here gets Spock, who's just like really void of all that for the most part. He's the logical part of your brain that, you should listen to that part, but you know, you're always going to do what Kirk does at the end. And I really do like the show because of that dynamic right there. That's really why I like the show. You know, and just that you get to travel around in space and, you know, discover new worlds. And for me as a kid, that was really the coolest thing. That was totally the coolest thing.
Good show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always
Michelle
wanted to
and
be
Julie,
Captain
what are your
Kirk.
favorite episodes?
Oh, City on the Edge of Forever, hands down. That's, just an instant classic.
To be honest, I don't remember the names of the episodes. I didn't get to watch it very often because we only had one TV in the 60s. And if mom and dad didn't want to watch the show and it was on when mom and dad were home, we didn't watch it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get to see very much of Star Trek. My parents, we watched a lot of Hogan's Heroes because dad wanted to watch it. we did not see a lot of Star Trek because my parents didn't care.
I'm just
So
glad
I
that
don't
none of
know
you
as
said
much
that
about it as the rest of you do.
I'm just glad that
You what?
none of you said that your favorite episode was the one with the space hippies. So,
Oh God.
No.
With that. Oh my God.
with
And
the big
with Dr.
cauliflower
Gary.
ears.
Yeah,
Oh,
Dr.
God.
Gary
Is that a
Seven.
and
precursor
on and
for
on.
Yeah.
Leia? But
Which
I
one?
do remember kids who did watch it, and they loved it, and it was the kind of thing everybody talked about at school the next day. But again, we never got to watch it live in the sense of, when it was actually on originally, because we weren't allowed, we couldn't. My
Yeah, everybody, a
parents,
lot of people in the chat are kind of this. Of course, the show would spark the memories and stuff, but everybody's
yeah,
kind of talking about this. Time Mechanics says, I still prefer the original Klingons. They got silly with all the makeup in TNG. Yeah, and then just naming.
but I do
episodes.
find it fascinating looking back that one of the all-time favorite characters is somebody whose claim to fame is being logical, and we live in a time where logic is not
Yeah, for
appreciated.
real. I see Peter Harrington said a couple were banned in the UK. The one with the kids in the old town was one.
That's
Oh, I
That's
think
episode Miri.
he's probably talking about Miri, which
Yeah,
is the first series episode, which is the one where all the adults have died out and diseased, it's only kids, and then Kurt it's probably for those scenes where Kurt goes like this with his arms and he has all those like scabs and
Yeah.
stuff on his arms when he's caught the disease. I think that was banned for being too intense. And I think there was another like first season one where they didn't show for a very long time.
Yeah, and he said a piece of the action was on
Yeah,
yesterday.
that
there.
Oh, yeah.
That one's
is
funny.
actually. Yeah, I do like the whole the gangster, them going back. And it's like some kind of gangster planet. I thought that was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, where
I
Spock's
do like that one a lot.
Spock's like, I advises you to keep dialing.
Yeah.
I love that.
This
Yeah,
morning I wrote down just whatever the episodes that were like top of mind, like in 10 seconds that were my favorites. My absolute favorite of the entire original series is the Doomsday Machine. The Planet Eater.
Yeah.
The one that's just kind of going on with William Wyndham in a brilliant, guest role as the, commander who kind of goes over the edge during the episode. Sitting on the Edge of Forever, like you said, Amok Time, where Spock has to go back to Vulcan to mate.
Yeah.
Mirror, Mirror.
Mhm.
Yes.
Journey to Babel, where you meet Spock's parents.
Yep.
All these are except for City is from second season, so which is why it's so good.
You don't like iMud?
I was just going to say now, after Doomsday Machine, I do like what I call the comedy trilogy, which is Trouble with Tribbles, Piece of the Action, and iMud. Because
do you really
I think
like Trouble with Tribbles?
I do. I think you can get light. I think that the tone didn't descend into farce a little bit in iMud, but it was just basically kind of letting the actors and the characters have fun. So I love those episodes. For the third season, I only really thought of a couple that I liked. One is the Enterprise incident with the female Romulan commander that's into Spock, during the espionage mission.
Yep.
And then the Tholian web, where Kirk vanishes, and then those aliens are making the web around the ship.
Yep.
And also I have to say that personally, I consider, when I think of the original series, I think of the original series plus Star Trek Continues, which I consider canon. I consider those episodes canon to the original series. So I always add in, I want to make sure to do a shout out for Star Trek Continues, which I think is part of this. So everybody loves Star Trek.
Is that all we have to say about Star Trek?
I need to get going, everybody. I've got to get over to LTG. So if you want to join us, we start in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Did we get through all of your choices, Julie?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Did we do all of your choices?
All her choices are done.
All my choices have been done.
Okay.
And we're going to, I'm sure, talk about more classic TV over at Let's Talk Geeky if anybody's interested in joining us. Wendology will be there. Archer Cullen will be there. And when you're ready, please.
Well,
All
later
right.
on, I'm sure that coming up, we still have Andy's 10-minute soliloquy on a shirtless somebody who's coming up.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that
that's
will,
coming up.
I'm sure you can tune in later for that.
I will tune in later to see the shirtless somebody.
Okay.
All right, take
If
care.
All
I'm, if
right.
I'm,
Thank you.
if I'm
Thanks for joining
correct.
us, Julie.
See you later,
Okay.
Albert. I'll teach you
All
to do
right.
that. Okay.
All right. Okay, let's move on from Star Trek. And here's the other one.
I do like all these facts, by the way. I mean, I'm gonna go back later and
I took a
pause.
lot.
I'm gonna go back and pause on those later.
I can send you the PowerPoint if you just
Okay.
really want them.
All right.
It's not a big deal.
There
All right.
you
So
go.
so your second. Well, I don't know. This is probably your third choice. Is Batman and my choice.
And then also I should say that here is my commemorative shirt for the day in honor of the stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about this little gem.
You start. Tell me about why you love Batman.
It's fun. It's just fun and goofy, and it doesn't care. And they're really trying to make something for kids that was like kind of comic book and just he's doing the Bat Watusi. And it's just colorful. I like the aesthetics of the show. I just like, other than Robin being just a bad actor in the first season, but it reminds me of just being at home in the summer and like Batman's on, and I'm gonna watch that before I go outside. It's just, there's a lot of memories there, and I think for me, Adam West will always be my Batman, because that's what I grew up with.
Definitely.
You know,
definitely.
And I just have a lot of nostalgic, connection with that. Especially being a young girl and like, liking superheroes, but there was some female superheroes back then. Believe it or not, Captain Marvel was not the first one. We had Batgirl, which was, she's cool.
What did you think of Batgirl when they brought her into the show?
I was really excited. I loved her motorcycle. That was really cool. And I loved her outfit. She was just really cool. It's like, and she was a strong character. She was a strong woman. She didn't need Batman to, she could save them just as well as they could save her. I mean, it was like, people talk about the 60s being like misogynistic, but I saw a different.
I don't know about all this falderall about her being a strong character, but that outfit was hot.
It's like, shut up. She was just hot. Yeah, I mean, she was very attractive, and to me, it had the zaniness that, it didn't take itself too seriously, and it had some really cool guest stars in it. And I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
the guest villains were always.
I watched Star Trek when I was young, but this was kind of my show. Like, Star Trek was cool and everything. I did watch it here and there. I didn't get more into. I got more into Star Trek when I got older. But I did watch it. But this was kind of my thing. Like, this was my summer thing. This and the Monkeys. This is what I was watching.
Oh, love the Monkeys.
And I don't know. It was just like I don't know. People who haven't seen it, they're missing out, because it's just, again,
it really was a comic book come to life in the best possible way. And as a comics fan, I went through what I think is I don't know if this is a normal arc for comic fans, because I've been a comic book fan reader forever. And of course, when you first discover the show, it's like, oh man, this is great. And then you go through that phase where you think, oh, comic books have to be serious.
Yeah.
And the dark, Frank Miller, The Dark Knight. And so of course, then that means you have to say that this show sucked and everything. And then, once you kind of, because if you're going to be a serious comic book fan, you got to think that this show sucks. And I did that for a while, and then kind of came back into it and appreciated it in a whole new way when I viewed it, as an adult, with all the things I missed when, because you're a kid, you're watching it for the colorful villains and for the zap, pow, boom, ouch, whatever the things were. But no, Adam West was brilliant. I mean, it takes a real sharp actor to get up to the line where it's parody, which this show never was, and you don't cross that. You go right up to it, and remained so serious. And the seriousness was part of the charm, as well as the kind of humor in it, because he was playing it so straight.
And I will say this show has the best Alfred.
Yes.
That is what I picture Alfred looking like.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, because weren't there times when Alfred would actually have to dress up as Batman and go portray him?
There were a couple times, yes.
Yeah.
And anybody, you know, for all those people with 2200 vision who couldn't tell that this old guy there is actually not Batman.
Right, obviously, but
you know, in Gotham City. But I love Burt Ward's expression in this picture. I mean, he looks like either, I don't know, if he realizes that maybe he shouldn't have eaten, you know, all those burritos at lunch or whatever.
He always did that look, and it's so cringy almost. And I don't know, it makes me laugh when I see it, because it's like that's how he acted in most of the time to me. He was just like, holy, you know, I feel like just saying he's going to say, holy crap, Batman, or something, you know.
I mean, and this show perfectly encapsulated like the pop art aesthetic of the, you know, mid to late 60s when this was on. I mean, perfectly, with all of the sound effects, and the colors were eye-popping. And I mean, all the villains. I mean, you said that for you, Adam West will be always your Batman, which is true for me too. For me, there will never be a better Riddler. I mean, a better Joker than Cesar Romero.
Oh, I know, absolutely.
He is the perfect Joker. And, you know, I was thinking about, because I have a Batman, I have a big Batman kind of book. And it, you know, in thinking about all the villains and stuff, and you had, you know, like, of course, Julie Newmar and stuff, and Frank Gorshin was my second favorite as the Riddler. And if you think about it, in the show, I mean, in all the movies, the Joker is the one who's the complete psychotic. But on the show, it was more Frank Gorshin's Riddler, who was the psychotic guy, much more than
nuts.
And he had that laugh, you know, where he would start talking and then he's going up and then he starts laughing. And
the way he acted was just, he was all over the place.
Oh yeah, he would jump around like a monkey and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, and you had, like, you know, Victor Boyd as King Tut, who was new to the show, not in the comics, and
also guest starred in another show we're going to be talking about.
Oh yeah, yes, and Vincent Price's Egghead, and you had the Mad Hatter, who were all kind of done for. Well, Mad Hatter might have been in one comic, but there was a lot of characters created just for the show. And you have like the death traps at the I mean, my favorite. I was trying to think of a couple of my favorite death traps. One was the one where they were put in like this TV dinner type of thing underneath all this foil or whatever. I thought that was kind of weird. And then there was one where they were like on top of a big pink cake, but it was quicksand, and they were sinking into the pink cake. I remember that.
This show seemed to be, although, you know, it's Batman and Robin, right? But it just seemed like they were out to create the most colorful villains possible on screen. And I think that's what helped the show. I mean, obviously Batman, people are watching for Batman and Robin, but for me, I thought the villains were really interesting. All their little backstories and all their little, you know, their costumes and stuff. I mean, to me, that is what drove me in. And even though Romero wouldn't shave off his mustache. He wouldn't. He would just paint it over it. I never noticed it. I never noticed until like years later, and I realized, wait.
You can only really notice it now, honestly, because you're watching it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
You know, which everything, and you can noticeable now, but if watching it on a TV show back in the day,
I think the only reason why I noticed is because I read that he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't.
Well, no, because when he was the romantic, you know, Latin leading man back in all those movies in the, you know, 40s and 50s, that was his personal trademark. So of course he's not going to shave it off.
I mean, you know, honestly, if comics are more like this, I probably would be a big comic fan. I don't like. I agree. I think comics have gotten a little too serious.
They actually.
I remember being a kid liking them, but
about 10 to 15 years ago, they did have a long running. And I read it. It was great. It was actually a comic called Batman 66, which was basically set in the show. And they used some original, for characters as well as, but the aesthetic was absolutely the show. And then they had like miniseries where they had Batman 66 meeting other characters at the time. They had a miniseries where they met the guys from Man from U.N.C.L.E., where they met the Avengers, the TV Avengers, the British show. And so they were doing all these cross-pollination of the like 60s shows and stuff. And then later on, they did a miniseries where the Batman 66 met the Linda Carter Wonder Woman, because obviously she would look just as young at the time of the Batman thing. And then they aged part of the comic like 10 years into the 70s, where these guys are older, but then it's now the Wonder Woman time period. So DC's done a lot of really great stuff with Batman 66.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, comic books should be fun, but when they start bringing in like a dark element to it, I'm kind of like, especially with superheroes, it kind of bores me. Other than the show, the Batman, because it just worked in that sense. But yeah,
what did you think, Andy? What did you think about them feeling the compulsion to put name tags on everything in the Batcave?
I don't know why that they did that. I don't know if they did it for the audience or whatever, but I just thought that was. I
always thought to myself when I was even as a kid, as I was watching that show, is who made those signs in the context of the show? Was Bruce Wayne like through Wayne Enterprises? Was he ordering little signs of like anti-crime computer or something like that?
Yeah, and my thing is like, okay, so if somebody gets in there, right, some villain, like it just points them right to where they need to go to sabotage something.
Because if I'm working for a sign company and I get an order from Bruce Wayne saying I need 10 Bat computer signs, I'm going to go, why does Bruce Wayne need 10 signs that say Bat computer?
Right. Well, I know, and it just points them right to the villain, to what they want to sabotage. It's kind of stupid. I guess as a kid, I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, really, to be honest. I just never thought about it.
And then lastly, I'm going to ask, what did you think of all those cameos as they're scaling the wall and people would open the window? You remember those?
I don't remember those. It's been a long time.
So it's like Batman and Robin would be like climbing a wall, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously when they filmed it, they're just like standing and going this way, but on the TV show, they're going up. And then they would have like somebody open the window just as they're passing.
See, I don't remember.
And it would be like some celebrity thing. The first one they did was Jerry Lewis. He opens the window and he does something like, "Oh, hi, Batman," whatever his Jerry Lewis thing.
I mean, I know they had cameos with pretty famous actors throughout
there was
the
one
series.
They did Santa Claus, where Santa Claus opens the window.
Wow. No, I actually don't remember that. It's been a long time since I've seen the entire series. I'll be honest with you. It's been probably years.
It's on Blu-ray.
I know. I actually I need to buy that because I actually did start watching it, but like they took it off for free, so like now I have to.
And there's not 1,200 episodes of this, so it doesn't take as long for you to watch it.
It's all about priorities.
I remember as a kid. Because I was really small watching that, and the bat signal, they would throw up searchlights when we lived in Virginia, because we lived near all the naval bases and everything, and they would do searchlights. And I remember as a kid racing to look at the searchlights to look for the Batman signal. So that's anytime I see searchlights, I look for the bat signal. I don't know why, but I do. So.
And a few years ago when Adam West died, I think it was the day after he died, they had a big thing in Los Angeles where I think it was downtown City Hall, where they got it together and hundreds of people showed up. I mean, hundreds. And they did a commemorative thing where they flashed the bat signal into the sky from LA City Hall. It was great.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very timeless show. Yes, it seems cheesy to a lot of people, but it's
great now. Like I said, I can watch this any time of the day or night. I mean, it's just great. Except for, you mentioned you like Batgirl, and so I did too. But they gave her
Just
that
different
they gave her
reasons.
that horrible song. You know, they gave her
Yeah.
that theme song, which was like,
I remember vaguely.
Batgirl. It's like,
Yeah.
did it take you? Did you write that like while you were brushing your teeth? It's like, come on, dude.
60s. It's the 60s, and they would love to throw in songs, just annoying little songs here and there. They
And
did
even,
that with The Witch too, with the stupid song Serena. I think it was Serena that sang it.
I'm not sure which one.
Oh
You mean
God, yeah.
the theme music?
No, she was like a hippie. She came back as a hippie, and she was singing some song, and it was the worst. Just look up clips. You'll see it, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But it's as annoying as that hippie episode in Star Trek. It's actually about on the same level. I think that the song in the hippie episode of Star Trek is probably worse.
One thing super fast that we didn't mention about Star Trek was the music, not the theme music, the score during the show, because even everybody knows the Star Trek theme, most people, but all of those recurring musical like motifs during the show, like you know, like the fights, it was always da 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 da
Yeah.
da 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 da, you know, or whenever they would have like a beautiful woman on there, and it was always like in that Vaseline lens, you know, with the soft focus, you know, when you would have, you know, the beautiful women come on, and it would always be the like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you know, and it was always these recurring little themes which were great.
Yeah, the music was good in that. Yeah. Other than the hippie song and the time that Uhura would want to sing in the bar.
Oh, I hated that.
I really
That
did
episode
hate
where
that.
she's like, where Spock's playing the
Yeah, he's playing that. I don't know what that
the
thing
Vulcan
is called.
lyre, and she's
Yeah.
singing that. Yeah, that is cringe inducing.
Yeah, I hate when they do that in shows. But look up the Serena song, that little hippie song she sings, and you'll see what I mean.
So let me see. I like these.
So
Oh no, go back to the facts.
okay.
Yeah, they had Egghead, King Tut, Shame. That was Cliff
I don't
Robertson.
remember Shame.
He was
I don't
Cliff
remember
Robertson as the cowboy, and had this group of cowboys.
Oh.
And Dina Merrill, I think, was his cowgirl. It was obviously a takeoff on Shane, the Alan Ladd movie. But he was like a cowboy criminal.
Okay. I don't remember him. That's again, I remember Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, which he was great. But
As
Frank
a kid,
Gorshin,
I didn't like him as much as the Joker and the Riddler. I mean, now I can watch him and think, well, he's doing a great acting job. But
right.
I always preferred the Joker.
Well, yeah, because I think they were a little bit more colorful, and Frank Gorshin was just all over the place. So, yeah.
No. So, yeah, man.
This is what I've been waiting for all
Yeah.
day.
Oh, I know. I know. No, this is one of my. I had to put Star Trek as number one, but this was basically my 1.1.
I had no specific order.
You know, yeah.
Really.
What can you
What
say?
I could say about this show is I always wanted that damn train. And I still want that damn train.
The Wanderer. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to
Well,
say something in the show.
Andy, you go first,
Right.
because I mean we can both be rhapsodic about the show for hours, but you go.
It's just I love steampunk. I love where you mix like a Western environment with, like, you know, technology, and I've always loved that. That's one reason why I like Paul McGann's TARDIS. It's very steampunkish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it had one of the best villains, Dr. Lovelace. And I think that was if I think about all the episodes that I really like, it's the ones that contain Dr. Lovelace. I mean, there's some good ones, don't get me wrong, without him. But for me, like, I really did when he came on, you know, that's when to me it got interesting. And he wasn't in that many. I think he was 20 or so, or less
10.
than that. Yeah, it just seemed like it should be 20, but yeah, it was but those are always the ones that I really enjoyed, because he was kind of like a small person James Bond villain, you know, like just someone from James Bond. And it was kind of like James Bond in the West. And I liked him. I liked, you know, Jim West was obviously the James Bond character, where
Yes.
Artemis is like the comic relief.
Artemis basically it started out as just the Q, the weapon supplier, James Bond's weapon supplier, but quickly became, his peer. I mean, they were partners out in the field, but he was the disguise expert. He came up with all the chemicals and all the bombs and all the gadgets and everything. He was the gadget guy, but he was just as much a secret agent as James West was, although James West was the physical guy, the womanizer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And I actually liked season 1 was good, but I think season 2 was where it got kind of more interesting and much more science fiction related, other than the Night of the Flying Pie Plate. Yeah. That was going a little bit over the top a little bit for my liking, but it was it was just I think one of my favorite episodes is I'm looking through them because there's so many.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
I did like the Night of the Bottomless Pit a lot. I remember really liking
that's on my list. I think that is one of absolutely the best episodes. I want to pause a second and acknowledge Allison's comment in the chat that she's never heard of this show.
Wow.
Allison, you must watch this show.
Let me change to the next slide, and I'm telling you, you'll be convinced. Okay. If you're not convinced by that middle picture, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh,
Just saying. And here it is again.
Can I say, everybody watching, the only reason that Andy included the pictures on the left and the right was to make it really, to try to disguise the fact that the middle picture is the only one she really cares about.
Well, I know I care about all the pictures. I mean, I like Dr. Lovelace, but not like I like Jim West.
Okay, so
honestly.
basically, let me take a second to Allison. Basically, here it is. This was on from 65 to 69. Obviously, 65 is the country is in the throes of Bond mania with Goldfinger the year before and Thunderball this year. Every show everywhere was doing spy versions. You had Man from U.N.C.L.E. You had, everywhere you looked, you couldn't do anything without seeing a spy show. So basically, the premise of this show this was James Bond in the Old West. It took place immediately after the Civil War, and there were two secret agents who would go around and prevent not only stuff you'd see in other Western shows from time to time in terms of problems, coming up with the Reconstruction and everything, but there was all sorts of madmen and crazed geniuses and Bond villains who were either trying to take over the country or ruin the economy or do this and that. And these two guys, James West and Artemis Gordon, were on their own private train called the Wanderer, and they would go around the country. That's what would take them around as they fought these kind of James Bondian villains. So this is James Bond in the Old West. The first season was in black and white, and the first season actually had about 5 different producers because it was such a unique format. It took a long time to find a producer who could really click with the aesthetic of what they were trying to do and not default to general Westerns or whatever, because it's like nothing like this had been done, and it took a while to kind of nail it down. And Dr. Lovelace, who's Michael Dunn, who's the picture on the right, was this dwarf who was kind of like a mad genius who had been, rejected, whose genius had been rejected and stuff, and he just wanted to take revenge against everybody. And every episode was called The Night of something. Every episode. And it's an amazing show. If you start watching it now, you'll fall in love with it. It's absolutely amazing. And
it's really, you will binge it. It's like one of those shows you can easily just sit there and watch episode after episode because they're really good. Even the first season's good, but
the first season's good.
The second season's more science fiction kind of style. And what's neat is these are all episodic, so you could start with the second season. You don't have to watch the first season.
And the thing about it is to me, even with Star Trek being out there, to me, this is the most inventive show of the 1960s.
It was.
It's the perfect balance of humor and adventure. The camaraderie, and the humor and sometimes the playfulness does not take away at all from the adventure aspect. And there's time for both. It's like the perfect, balance of that. And I think I came up with just a few of my favorite episodes is well, you mentioned the Flying Pie Plate, which is not one of my favorites, but I do remember it. And I love the Bottomless Pit. There's a scene in the Bottomless Pit where they've got to infiltrate Devil's Island, where they have a convict. So Jim has already gone in early as a convict to try to help out whatever the mission is. And Artemis comes in and he is auditioning for like a role as one of the guards and stuff. And he has like this 10-minute like comedy audition scene where he goes and he has to fight two other guys in a separate room, but he uses gas and stuff to knock them out so that the commandant thinks, oh, wow, this guy's all that. And there's an episode called The Night of the Lord of Limbo, which is Ricardo Montalban stars as this guy who's been a general in the Civil War. And he had his legs, he was in a wheelchair. He had his legs basically destroyed during the Civil War. And he invented this, he found or invented this kind of time doorway where he wanted to go back and basically stop himself from being injured, but that would have like changed the course of the war or something.
Yeah.
And so Jim has to go back through time and stop him before he changes the past. And so I love that episode. That was a great one. And then just a couple more that I like. One is called The Night of the Falcon, where Robert Duvall plays this guy who's constructed this colossal falcon-shaped cannon to destroy Washington. And there's even a scene where, and I don't think he's wearing a shirt in this, where Robert Conrad, who's infiltrated it, makes his way into the control room and just stands there kind of like dumbstruck at kind of what he's seeing. And so it's like these big Bondian villains. There's one called The Night of the Watery Death, where there's this torpedo which is destroying shipping, but it's shaped like a big dragon, and everything. And so all these, the one Loveless episode I like, Andy, it's called The Night of the Raven. I think you mentioned it, which is where Jim and this Indian girl get shrunk down to like 3 inches or whatever.
Is that I do like that one also, like The Night of the Man-Eating House, I believe it's called that. Yeah.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that was weird.
Yeah, well, I like the kind of strange off ones.
That was like, that's one of the ones that ends and you go, wow, did this happen or was it just
and
about
I like that
to?
because they question
that,
and so I always like those.
And we have to say, could you go back for a second since Allison hadn't heard of it yet? Back to the slide which shows the 4 blocks, which was also unique. Now, basically what this was, which was great. Now, first of all, to me, this is the best theme music of any show in the 1960s, bar none. So what they would do is after the little animated opening, at the end of every act of the 4 acts, the shot would freeze and the shot then would morph into one of the animation segments in this grid. So that by the time you finish the 4th and last act, you would have the kind of grid filled out with kind of scene enders from, throughout the show. And of course that would differ every episode. So that was really unique and fun.
Yeah. And then the fact is that in one of and obviously you can see like, the woman is trying to like, do something to him very nefarious, and he actually knocks her out, which they wouldn't do today.
Which actually, I think for the final season or whatever, they changed that to where he just gives her like a long kiss, and she's about to knife him, but he gives her like a long kiss, and then she just kind of walks away and then kind of falls against the black border and kind of swoons. Because they didn't want to have him punching a woman in the opening credits.
Well,
Yeah. All right, guys, I got to jet
All right.
out of here. I got to go pick up
All
my
right.
son.
all right, Michelle.
So
Thanks for
I enjoyed this.
yeah.
This was the last one, right? This was
No.
our final one. Yeah, we saved the
No.
best for last. Oh, we have one more?
I think so.
I think you covered all of my shows.
Yeah, but I have one.
Oh, you have yours. Okay, well, no, we'll talk about
All
the
right,
Disney.
I will catch you guys later. All right, bye,
All right,
everyone.
later. Bye.
Which is great since we have a lot of UK people. So
Yeah,
now
I wanted
they'll
to
be
give
familiar for
something
this.
that you know, that's kind of UK. So, and this is the last one. Yeah, I like this show. I watched it a few years ago. I like the premise because he doesn't understand why he's there. He just wakes up there. He's a secret agent guy. He's like, why am I here? And basically, they just have him there because they want to find out what he knows. But I think what's interesting is it's this whole little village, this whole little like world of people. And what makes me curious is like these other people, like how did they get there? Like what did they do to get there? I always thought that was really interesting. And then just his obviously he's not happy at all. There's in his situation at all. Like all the other people seem to be acclimated, and you're just thinking, well, what they have to do to get them acclimated to where they're just like seem to be somewhat happy. And just every episode being him having to get out of the situation and him almost, getting away and escaping, to me kind of kept me watching. And of course, Patrick McGowan, I thought he was fabulous in it. And just them having, how he has to go in and be questioned every day, and the person questioning him every day is a different, played by a different actor, either male, female. I think it had a really cool vibe to it. I think the aesthetic was really good, and just I like shows about kind of a dystopian penal colony, which is what it says here what it's about. I watched it once. I couldn't tell you what my favorite episodes are.
Did you?
But,
I'm curious. Were you ever kind of, and maybe this is part of the appeal to you, the fact that it seemed like every episode was either like metaphorical or symbolic, or it wasn't just like a straight adventure. I mean, you got the sense that everything represented something, and if you couldn't figure it out, you were maybe missing something because you knew that everything stood for something, even though if you didn't know what it was for.
Right. And it seemed like there was a mystery there, like, and it still was to me by the end. I was like, okay, but I still think that makes it a little bit more rewatchable because you want to rewatch to see what you missed. Like maybe did you see something? Did you miss something in it? And I liked the way that they constructed the village and how it looks so happy, and it's like anything but happy. There's such a sinister vibe to it, such an evil. And I really am attracted to shows where it looks innocent, but it's really sinister underneath, extremely.
And I'm curious, are you also does it bother you that like shows like this that maybe don't have any ever really kind of solid explanation, or that some things are just left not making sense or whatever? Or do you, when you watch, you kind of like at some point need everything to fit and make sense?
It depends on, what it is. I mean, this, I was okay till about the very last episode. And then I felt like there should have been something, because I spent all this time, but thinking about it, thinking about rewatching it, it doesn't turn me off the thought about rewatching it. I don't feel like it's a waste because of the episodes where the situations he'd get into. And then of course, and I always look forward to them actually bringing out that, that gigantic ball thing.
Rover. Yeah.
Yeah. I really did, because
that was creepy.
To me, that was really like chilling.
It would have the scene where it would, whoever it was kind of stopping and going over, it would have the thing where it was like over their face and like they couldn't breathe. And to me, not being able to breathe, being suffocated is like a terror.
And it was very dark, and you're in a very idyllic setting. And to me, that's terrifying. If you'd really want to well, if I don't want to, just in case I ever get taken in for torture, what would really be the worst for me is put me in an idyllic situation, make me feel like, okay, I look kind of safe, but I don't know where I am. And put me in that kind of situation and then do things like that to me. That would be terrifying to me. Not being able just to get out. Like, why am I here? Why
Yeah,
would
and
why
then
won't anyone
to
tell
have
me
no, I
anything?
mean, it would be like perpetual disorientation.
Yeah. And so to me, that's what was appeal to the show, I think, because, other than his acting and he wasn't having any of it. And I love that. He wasn't going to put it in, other people are just falling in, and I think it was kind of why it relates, especially if you want to relate it to something a modern day. It kind of reminds me when everybody was wearing masks and there's a few people standing up. Like in that kind of world, like
Mm,
here's everybody just falling in, towing the
right.
line. And then you have Patrick McGowan, and he's going to stand up and he's going to be the hero and he's going to find out what the hell is going on here. I'm not going to put up with this. I don't know I mean, that's what I liked about it. And he had a cool apartment too. That was a cool,
Well,
some
clearly,
cool
clearly,
gigs.
I mean, he was making, a commentary on the whole struggle between the individual versus the state. What is freedom?
Right.
When is freedom
Right.
lost?
Hmm.
Uh, under what circumstances can you call something freedom and then something, imprisonment? And, then the whole mystery, no spoilers for anybody who, may not have watched this in 50 years. The whole mystery of like who is number one, and all of that. And
Hmm.
the final episode is really symbolic and metaphorical. You can make
It is.
if you watch it multiple times, you can kind of get a sense, okay, this clearly stands for this clearly stands for that. And even the final shot of it makes a certain, like, is making a point about the overall message about, when are we truly free, when are we not free, and all of that up to the very last scene. So but you can watch a lot of them in terms of plots, like how is he going to foil this week's plot of them to brainwash him or make him think that this woman is,
Interested
whatever.
or yeah, and I like that, that's what kind of made me, binge it. And I just couldn't stop watching it. And I was a little irritated at the end, but come to think about it though, that kind of gives it a rewatch value that other shows may not have because it's like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna try to like, let me see if there was clues. Let me see if there's something here. And again, it's really good. And when they brought him in there, and he was like, then they would just question him, and it was just an odd way,
and
they had to question
the
him.
fact that they get new, he's number six because everybody in the village gets a
Right,
number. He's number six. The fact that they get new number twos
right,
almost, almost, but not every episode, but pretty
right.
much every episode. It's like the conflict is the same in terms of number six versus number two, but since you're recasting and putting new number twos every week, it changes the dynamic of that every week. So it's kind of the same kind of knot, when
Right.
you have the same kind of conflict, but it's interpreted different ways because you have new number twos all
And
the
then you
time.
start to wonder, well, why? And obviously, they think it's kind of a cool casting choice. I get it. Like they think that's okay. That'll draw people in. It'll be interesting. But other than that, though, I'm sitting here thinking, well, why is it a different person every time?
Yeah.
What are they hiding? What's going on here? What are they trying to throw him? They're trying to throw him off somehow. And
Right.
then he wants to know who's number one.
I always
So
interpreted it the fact that I know that in the last two episodes, one of the very early number twos comes back, and
yeah,
there's another thing in the middle where there's the same number two in two different episodes.
mm-mm.
But for the most part, they're all different. I always thought that, I mean, I may be wrong. I always thought, well, they were brought in to do like this week's way to get information out of number six, and they
Right.
failed. So then they were like, that's why they never showed up again.
Yeah, it's a fabulous show. Regardless if I like the last episode or not, that to me doesn't matter because it's really the journey getting there. I mean, there's worse shows that have pissed me off by the ending, like Lost, because that would seem like more of a waste. But this doesn't seem like a waste because it is. I wouldn't say it is episodic, but it's got some rewatch value. in
I mean,
my
and
opinion.
it's a unique. I mean, if any of
Yeah.
the shows we've mentioned today really most deserve the word unique to it, it probably would be this one.
Yeah.
I don't see this being able to be done in any other decade. I mean, they tried it with that Jim Caviezel remake, which stunk. This could only have been done, when it was done. So,
And what's sad? I think the Jim Caviezel one wasn't like, I think it had it could have been, it had promise. There's parts that I enjoyed, but I think it's sad because that could have been really great. You've got Ian McKellen, that could have been just really, really,
they
really
introduced, they overcomplicated it, and it tried to be too clever by half, and they tried to answer everything.
Yeah.
It's like, but a show like this, it's not about what the answers are. It's more about just
and I think
it's the questions that it raises.
that. I think they missed that. And it doesn't really bother. Like, I don't have to have a show doesn't have to explain everything to me. I mean, I like shows like that because it's interesting because you do have a rewatch value as long as it's not too convoluted. I mean, this wasn't too bad. I think the last episode was just, oh my. I've heard that he got people were angry, like he would get accosted on the street.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when the show, it's only 17 episodes, and everybody thought, well, this is the episode where we're going to get all of our answers, just like normal television, where everything is spoon fed. And it was not what people wanted. Like I said, although if you watch it, you can kind of discern kind of what he was going for and the points he was making.
Right.
But, oh yeah, I mean, there was a lot of anger to him and the network when it aired and stuff. And now, of course, it's all a classic. But back in the day, it's like, yeah, what was that we watched? That wasn't what I wanted or what I expected.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. And I may go back and rewatch it. I've watched it once, but it stuck with me. The
only thing you have to watch in order, you have to watch the first episode first, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You have to watch the final two-parter last. Everything else can be watched in any order.
Right, exactly. But I would start over if I was gonna. I would be just like, okay, I'm gonna watch it in order. But yeah, definitely Wild Wild West. You can watch them in any order, though.
Yeah, Allison. I think we have a new convert because Allison found some episodes of Wild Wild West. Now.
And there's a lot of them on YouTube. Actually, I think in Odyssey. Odyssey's another one that has some free Wild Wild West episodes, but that's all we have.
Yeah, Freevee I think might have some, or Tubi or whatever. But make sure the ones you watch have the end credit music too, because you can't get enough of the theme song from.
Oh yeah, it's great. And and some of them cut off right at the end, like where him and Artemis are talking, and I hate that. So that's why I got all the DVDs, because
I have.
Once you like it and watch it, buy all the DVDs. Don't.
So I got it's not on Blu-ray, but it's on DVD.
Yeah.
And back in the 90s, there was a great book. I don't know even if it's still in print or whatever. It was a great book called Wild Wild West, the series.
I've seen that somewhere. I think on eBay.
Yeah, it might have been on eBay because this was done back in 1988. So, and then I dug out. I remember I had these. They did a 4-issue comic book series in the 90s. Which was,
wow, I didn't know they had that.
It took place after the end of the series. This was still pretty good.
Fabulous show. All these shows that we talked about today are fabulous, and the 60s was a fabulous time. And thanks for everybody for joining us.
Absolutely.
I knew this was going to be a long one because it's you're talking about a lot of shows and people's childhood. So we're gonna, but thanks for
come back for our 70s show, which I think is going to be an 8-hour extravaganza.
Oh God, hope not. All right, everybody. Bye, Gary.
Bye.